and welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is our first episode deep diving Glow of the Everflame by Nicole, where we are covering chapters 1 through 7. If you didn't catch our 5 episodes for Spark of the Everflame, that's okay. It's not absolutely necessary to listen to them before you start today's episode, though we do highly recommend tuning into them at some point, as our Spark coverage lays the foundation for this continued character and thematic analysis. Before we begin this Glow episode 1, please listen closely to our spoiler warning, because these episodes include spoilers for all 3 released books in the Kindred's Curse saga, which means Glow, Spark, and Heat of the Everflame spoilers.
So if you don't know why we are going to be on half-breed watch, then please go finish the series. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we of Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
We get Luther seeing Diem half naked, not once, but twice, and I will have zero chill. You've never heard a one-horse walkthrough trope like you will have today.
Friends, you don't understand, really and truly, it is a full-blown walkthrough.
So you want to be mindful of those little listening ears.
Additionally, we are so excited to see what upcoming live events. Nicole and I are hosting an Empyrean-themed trivia in Boulder, Colorado on July 10th. It is sold out, but we have a wait list you can sign up for. We will also be featured guests at Enchanticon in St. Louis, Missouri, August 15th through 17th.
Then we will be at the Everflame Ball along with Nicole for the first ever Kindred's Curse Saga Ball on August 30th in Castle Rock, Colorado. We will also be back at the Dragon Gauntlet in Boyne City, Michigan, September 12th through 13th.
Then Romantasy BookCon in Orlando, Florida, October 23rd through 25th, where we're interviewing Rebecca Yarros again at Disney World.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events.
Last thing before we jump into this Glow of the Everflame episode 1. If you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and just so much more all around, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 tiers that you can join. Number 1, The Descended, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, book club, exclusive author interviews, community events like trivia or a cooking class that at the time of recording, we're doing that this weekend. We're so excited. Promo codes to live events, plus exclusive designs and 20% off all merch. That is for $6 a month. Or you can join the Royal Family, which includes everything from the Descended level, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have our Crowns Council, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus more behind-the-scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, a private Discord channel. You also got a fun new perk release that we announced yesterday at the time of this recording. We're so excited to dive in. And your name is also shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes. And really and truly, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true. It's all because of you.
And now it is time to meet the Corbois family.
Like we do with every new book, let's open today's conversation with where Glow of the Everflame ranks in the series, because I'm pretty sure this is our favorite book of the Kindred's Curse saga for both of us, right?
Correct, yes. And in fact, actually, Glow of the Everflame is one of my favorite books of all time for multiple reasons. Number 1, Luther and Diem's tension is off the charts. Nicole knows how to, write a drop of the gaze to the lips or a brushing of a thumb against skin, and it just gives me chills. I love this part of a slow burn. It's the I want you, but I can't have you yet. And I know I'm known for smut love letters on this podcast, but I'll be real honest, this part of the romance journey is my favorite, and I love that Glow gets to spend basically the entire book in it.
Me too. And also the banter between Diem and Luther is just top notch. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Second thing I love about this book is the found family element is just all over these pages. Everyone from Taran, Elix, Eleanor, Lily, and even Teller being included in the fray. It's not just Diem, it's her and her little brother. It just feels so close-knit, and I love, love, love their dynamics. Number 3, I love a book with trials, and this feels very trial-y. It might not be a competition like Hunger Games or The Serpent and the Wings of Night, but everything is leading up to that looming challenging, and I love, love, love it. And the challenging is one of my favorite arena scenes I've ever read in my entire life.
Me too. The way that she comes into her magic is just, love it.
Well, and like the plot twist about Luther challenging her and it being Rongi Slane who she ends up killing. And there's a godstone wound in it that I totally missed on all of my reads. There's just so much there. Number 4, the tragedy of losing Andrei ripped my heart out, stomped on it a million times. But at the same time, it feels so perfect for Diem's character arc in losing her stepfather. It just, it's heartbreaking, and it's written so well, her grieving journey. Second to last, this might be quite unpopular. I love Diem in this book. We're going to bring it up so much in this coverage, but this whole book takes place over a month. In fact, actually, everything that happened in the last 5 chapters of Spark was earlier this evening. It's such a condensed timeline, and if I were thrust into a completely new environment, and it was an environment I despised my whole life, I would have clung like mad to whatever was comfortable, whatever was safe, and I would have doubted everyone's motives around me based off of what I previously believed.
I absolutely agree. And I feel like a lot of times in these fantasy stories, when the FMC comes into some power or goes to a completely different world, something along those lines, this feels really rooted in, I'll say, realism with how she's acting, where she doesn't know what the hell is going on. She's trying to find her footing, and she does keep stumbling. And I understand why some people feel some frustration, but for me, that's why I think that she is so realistic in that way, is because she's screwed and she knows it. And anyway.
Well, and it's like Penn said, it's the most unqualified person for the job is being put into the highest ranking job in this part of the realm. And of course she's not going to be good at it. And I love that she sucks. Like, I love that she sucks at first. But I do think Diem does a lot of growing in this book in how she thinks, in who she trusts, in what she holds dear. And at the same time, her actions and her thought processes, like you said, it feels so realistic for someone with Diem's very, very stubborn personality. Is she flawed? God, yes. And that's why we love her so much. She is set up for failure in this book, and she does fail a lot, but she still succeeds at the end. And it's like it's this moment of pride.
Absolutely. Well, and then there's also little moments of pride throughout the book, too. Like, for instance, at the Ascension Ball, when she's accused of killing the king, and she thinks on her feet and is super cunning and clever and can show she can play this game. She just needs a little bit of time to get used to it, you know?
Exactly. There's so much of Diem coming into her own comfortability and kicking and screaming, let's be real. But when she steps into it, it's like, oh, girl, you were actually meant for this. And that's why at least she's the ruler they need right now, which is why I love this. And last but not least, because I will not talk about why I love this book and not mention it twice, the romance and the tension in this book is everything to me. We get more Luther. We get so many longing stares and lengthy touches. We get a foot massage scene that I will become a new person when we cover that episode. We also get them officially getting together at the end of this book. It's like, I love it. I love their romance, and I can't wait to just bask in it for 7 episodes.
Well, you pretty much just said everything that there is to love about the book. But really and truly, like, I love it for the political scheming and the introduction to this new culture with the descended way of life, how Diem navigates all this that's completely out of her element. You know, everything that you were just saying there. I love the slow burn and the found family the story introduces. I love Sarai and how Diem comes into her magic at the end. I'll still say I love the plot and mystery of the second half of Heat the most of the series, but as an entire book, Glow is definitely my favorite of the series too.
That makes a lot of sense. That's super fair. Yeah.
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round, friends, as we consult with our royal advisors. I love it when a segment name makes sense. To discuss what happens in chapters 1 through 7 of Glow of the Everflame.
Chapter 1. Diem, you might as well be changing her name to Billie Eilish because you should see her in a crown. You know who's not seeing herself in a crown? Diem. Tell her being the best little brother that he is basically trying to get Diem out of Dulu mode. And who better to help than Lily, whose first reaction to the crown is to kneel before her new queen. Seeing this, Diem is finally convinced that she is a queen, but she is a mortal one. Maybe Mother Lumnos wanted to spice things up a little bit. Spice watch. We're totally going to ignore the fact that she was just shooting light out of her hands about 5 minutes ago, but that's fine. Not wanting the crown, Diem is ready to just give it away, but there's one tiny problem with that. The only way to give up the crown is to die, and that's not on Diem's bingo card. Chapter 2. Heading to the Royal Hunting Lodge, Diem starts planning what to do now that she's definitely the new Crown of Lumnos, and totally not daydreaming about her steamy makeout sesh with Luther. Me too, Diem, me too. Hearing hoofbeats outside the lodge, Diem opens the door to let Lily in, but only to come face to face with a very angry Luther. Why are you holding your sword there, Luther? Not giving him a moment to speak, Diem word vomits her plan to find a way to hand over the crown to him. Knowing that Diem doesn't know what the heck is going to happen from here, Luther offers to help her out, starting out with a ride to the palace. But wait! There's only one horse, and there was much rejoicing. Chapter 3. Arriving at the palace, Diem immediately calls to Sarai, which draws the attention of, well, everyone. After a quick bonding session, Diem confidently makes her way into the palace and has no idea where to go. But Luther does. Leading Diem upstairs, Luther gives her some very important advice. Tell them as little as possible about yourself, which she totally listens to. Chapter 4. Oops, she did it again. Dee walked in a room with no plan in her head. Oh, baby, baby. Every Corbois in the room is styled head to toe in their finest clothing, and Diem is rocking a soggy, mud-stained guard uniform. It's called fashion, everyone. Luther introduces Diem to the fam, and boy, is it awkward. Let the courtly politicking begin! Calm down, Lexi. One after another, each Corbois is introduced to their new queen, and after all the introductions have been made, it's time to spill some tea. Diem let slip that she's totally mortal, and if he could, Luther would have been banging his head against the door. His only rule has been ignored. Oh, Luther, get used to it. Trying to turn Diem's self-destruct streak around, Luther proposes an idea. Join House Corbois, and they will protect her in the challenging, which Luther's father Remus, sadly not Lupin, but instead the little royal status-seeking cockroach that he is, jumps on this train faster than you can say expecto patronum. Chapter 5. Finally, Diem is done meeting with the family, but the night isn't over yet. She has one more person to talk to, Lily. But don't worry, Lily, you're not in trouble for totally abandoning your queen's orders earlier. Instead, Diem needs a favor. Can you sneak my brother into the palace? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Luther walks Diem to her temporary bedroom and tries to use this moment alone to give Diem some more advice, but she's being difficult, and only wants answers about her mother. But there's no time for answers because the night's not over without a little physical altercation between two not-so-lovebirds. Being bested by the prince, Diem finds herself pressed close to Luther's body. But in her rage, Diem calls Sarai, and Luther makes her a deal. Call off Sarai, and he'll tell her whatever he can about her mother. That whatever he can is doing a lot of lifting. After taking a bath nap, Diem wakes up to Luther at her door bearing gifts, a bag of Fertosian steel knives. Chapter 6. The next morning, Diem wakes up and someone's in her room. Throwing off her blankets, she pounces completely naked on the intruder, only to find that it's Eleanor, just looking to help her out and hopefully dress her. After all, this now makes 3 times that Diem is naked in front of a member of the Corbois family. Knowing she needs someone with inside knowledge, Diem makes Eleanor her first advisor to the crown, and she fills her role perfectly, filling Diem in on all the Corbois tea and giving her a much-needed tour around the palace, ending with a nice wine and dine in the garden. And it looks like they did a little more whining than dining. Chapter 7. Time for a stroll. Aemonn picks up the queen for their tour to the gardens. On their walk, Aemonn continues to convince her the Corbois are the #1 house, but his selfish motives are actually interested in her taking him as her escort to the Ascension Ball. The what? In her attempt to let him down easily, Diem drunkenly spills the beans about her not-so engagement to Henri. While trying to talk Diem out of her relationship with Henri, Aemonn clues Diem in on a very, very important piece of information. You know how Luther is keeper of the laws? Yeah, that means all the laws. including the progeny ones. Murderer. Feeling her rage, Sarai calls out in frustration, ready to kill whoever's responsible for Diem's anger. But if anyone is going to kill Luther Corbois, it's going to be Diem Bellator. Kill that dick, that is!
It is time to reach for our foraging magic and unravel key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and so much more. Before we dive straight into where we left off with Diem at the end of Spark, I'd love to take a quick moment of appreciation for Glow's dedication. Quote, "For every spark that has lost its light and needs a little help remembering how to glow." Just like the dedication for Spark, this speaks to both the reader and to Diem. Diem did lose her light in book 1. How many times did we say during that deep dive that her world had been turned upside down and she was stumbling with her self-identity? This is going to be true now more than ever for Diem as she enters a whole new side of the world with the Descended, and she's completely out of her element. I should make a drinking game out of how many times I'm going to say that just this episode alone.
No more drinking games.
And she has to keep pushing through all of that. She'll need to remember how to glow, how to keep taking it one day at a time, how to tap into her inner strength so she can be the leader she is destined to be. I also love the titles of the books and how it progresses here, and it's really illustrated in the dedication. First was Spark of the Everflame, then it's Glow, then Heat, and then Burn. Her newfound family will be instrumental in helping Diem remember to smile and to lift her chin up, and they'll help her succeed in this new world she's thrust into.
I also can't help but think of the quote, "Glow so bright that the darkness trembles." That line gives me chills from Luther. Not just because it's from Luther, but just because it's a really great line. That's a quote I would highly consider getting a tattoo of.
Ooh, that'd be a good tattoo quote.
Be a good tattoo, right?
This dedication also hits deep for us readers personally. So many of us have lost our light. I know that I did postpartum, and I felt like I was fumbling in the dark, no longer really knowing my motivation or passion or sense of self outside of motherhood. And what helped me remember to glow was reading and these stories that I can simultaneously escape to and find relatable. This community helps me remember how to glow. You helped me find my glow, Nicole. And I know what makes each of us glow is different. So whatever remembering to glow looks like to you, our dear listeners, I just want to say I'm thinking of you and I'm cheering you on.
You made me glow too, Lex. It was really nice. Well, before I turn into a weeping mess, let's drop right back into where Spark left off and Glow begins. The final line we got from Diem's story was Teller saying that she is the new Queen of Lumnos. Remember, the crown only passes to the Descended, who's the most powerful in the realm. A reality that is inconceivable to Diem. So, of course, this must be a hallucination, right? Diem was told from a young age that her sire went mad by these same assumed hallucinations, and her mother convinced her that she was having those same ones. Hence why she went on the only way to rid herself of those hallucinations was to go on flame route, or else she would lose her mind. So with Diem growing up only having believed that hallucinations equal lose your mind, lose your life, it makes sense that she believes this all to be in her head. She even wonders if Teller's not even here and she's in the forest just talking to herself. It kind of makes me sad that she doesn't trust what's real in front of her this much. She's so unable to see anything other than what she's been told her whole life. So she zones in on the one thing she knows that can save her. Must find flame root now. But there's only one small problem. About a month ago, she flung all that flame root powder into the sacred sea, and she has no way of getting more.
The flame root represented everything she hated about her life, and throwing it away felt freeing, like Diem was able to take some control over her own life. Now, though, being off the flame root is anything but freeing. Like she felt after the wolf incident toward the beginning of Spark, Diem resorts back to the flame root as her safety crutch. She's trying to get back to her comfort zone now that things feel out of control in a very different, scary way. And unfortunately, that comfort zone doesn't exist anymore because she chose to say goodbye to it.
But in this panic state, a little thing like freezing cold sea water won't get in her way, so she rushes into the sacred sea, attempting to find and save her supply. But alas, it is weeks away with the fishes.
I can see that visual so clearly. And it's so funny because when I was first listening to the audiobook, I didn't catch that part about how she was like waiting in the water. And so next thing I knew, she's like half half naked with soaking wet clothes in the cabin. And I'm like, what the heck happened here? Anyway,
I love that little detail where she was so frantic that she goes back to something that is weeks.
Yeah.
The tide has taken it away. And she tries so frantically to go into whatever is comfortable. Oh,
exactly. She's not thinking logically by
No, not
any
at
means
all.
right now. Oh gosh, I feel bad bringing this up with Diem in her current frantic state, but we have to play our signature game, How Delulu is Diem right now? Because the crown of Lumnos is on the top of her head. She is convinced this can't be real and it must be a hallucination, despite Teller assuring her it's not and that he can see the crown too, and she's on a desperate mission to find the flame root in the water to stop her from going mad. This is a bit of a hard one, because my heart goes out to Diem and I can absolutely appreciate how she is refusing to believe this is even possible. There's the truth of, I'll say, acknowledging being descended after hating them from a distance all your life, which has indeed been nagging at Diem more and more lately, as we were talking about in Spark. Plus, there was Luther straight up telling her she's no more mortal than he is, and he can feel her magic. And then there's wearing the crown, which distinguishes you as the realm's most powerful descended. There's no hiding from this. Being a realm crown is a whole other playing field that she never in a million years could fathom, even when a tiny little voice in her head said, maybe you are descended. As we head into the sequel with Diem's Delulu-ness, we decided it's time to tweak the rating system. It was previously between 1 through 5, but now we got to increase it to 10, because otherwise we would just live at 5 and glow. In this instance, it's a toughie. I think I have to go with 8. Her brother is insisting she hasn't gone crazy and this is not a hallucination. But like I said, this isn't just facing the fact that Diem's descended. She has just been selected as the Lumnos crown. Only Luther could have seen this coming. So I am still giving this I'll call it a high 8, because she says she can't be the crown because she is mortal. And Lily's like, well, maybe Lumnos thinks it's time for a mortal to reign. Oh, Lily, girl.
are we about to play How Delulu is Lily?
But I get it with Lily because she's following Diem's lead here. Only Teller brings up the unspoken possibility. Maybe Diem isn't mortal. This isn't Luther telling her this. This is her brother. This is her closest confidant saying the truth that she cannot even possibly comprehend. Even though Diem knows it's true, she just refuses to consciously consider the possibility. Not realizing she hasn't bled for 10 years until the Fortosian steal. Again, she's like, oh no, I have bled. And she's like, oh shit. No, she's just been conditioned that much to believe that she is mortal. Okay, as I'm saying all of this, I gotta give this rating a 7 in regard to the crown, but her Delulu is a 10 when it comes to being descended. So averaging at an 8.5.
Okay, I think that's a very good rating. I like that. I am going to go with 1 rating, how the turntables, at an 8 out of 10. I originally gave this a 9 out of 10, mainly because I was solely looking at her believing she's not descended. But I frankly changed my mind typing this out, which is very on brand for me. She just shot light out of her hands so bright that her mother saw the pillar of magic from Kirill across the sacred sea. And she still believes Lily when Lily says that a mortal must have been chosen. Did you forget you just shot light out of your hands, girl?
Well, maybe it's just a crown thing, you know?
Oh my
Which
God.
Technically it is.
It kind of is. She has the physical manifestation of the crown on her head. Even if she can't feel it physically, she sees the glow of it being reflected in Teller's face. Then she also has Teller and Lily vouching for everything that's happening. She also has the reflection of the freezing cold water when she sees the rippling crown hovering above her head. She also just had Luther telling her that she's no more mortal than he is. The only reason, because I'm not going to change my mind on the spot again, the only reason I'm docking this 2 points is because how much of a heightened state she's in. She just had a huge fight with her father. She's running purely off of adrenaline and the fight voice in her head. She is not thinking clearly. She would also have to realize she's not just a descended. She is the descendant. Imagine jumping that far up in the food chain. That would be so difficult to believe. That's the main reason I'm docking this 2 points. And also, because it never would have ever dawned on her that her mother would have lied to her until now. And that loss of innocence and that loss of trust in your parents, it's such a hurdle for anyone, but especially Diem, who comes from a family who is so founded in unconditional trust. Her father just told her a whole story about unconditional trust.
Exactly. Well, and back in Spark, like, she started thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, what if my mom was lying to, and she, like, immediately shut that thought down because she's like, nope, I can't.
There's no way.
Exactly. It was like, if I can't trust my mother, then I can't trust my entire life.
Yeah.
And all of the cards would come crumbling down, and she could not do that. And now they are crumbling down anyway.
Well, and I also wonder if a little subconscious part of her would feel guilt for, like, Aurelie's gone. She doesn't know where she is. And then she starts not trusting what she believed her entire life from her. Like, I'd have some major daughter guilt if that happened, for sure. She also just quit the healer center because it wasn't her choice to be there in the first place. And she wanted to go out into the unknown for herself. This has been less than a day of her being like, I'm finally taking control of my life. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to do something. And now here she is, thrust into another super not your choice, but on a much higher scale. So for that reason, I'm going 8 out of 10, mainly because of sympathy is why I'm talking those 2 points. But I agree with you on her not believing she's descended. Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10.
She has run out of excuses.
She's gone.
That is an automatic highest rating possible. It's the other factors of it that we got to consider now.
For me, it's that big jump. It's I'm not just a descendant. Because if it was her realizing that she's just a descendant, I think this would be a very different conversation. But it's her realizing that, oh no, you're the most powerful descendant in all of Lumnos.
And she's like, I don't have magic. Like, no, like, this is not possible.
Like, excuse me while I shoot light out of my hands into the sky.
But, like, again, she doesn't think that she has magic.
I know.
Even though she has seen it a little bit, she doesn't have it in the same way that she has seen it from, like, Luther.
Yep.
Or Ron. Or, she hasn't seen a lot of magic, but yeah.
She is so other. And I do think that a lot of people, when they think about Diem and they're like, oh, girl, you're not seeing what's right in front of you, they forget how truly other she is. This has never been heard of since the Kindred themselves. And it's not like there's a whole lot of people talking about their specific type of magics going around.
Exactly.
My heart just so goes out to Diem here because she's not only believing that she's lost her mind and simultaneously realizing that she's the Queen of Lumnos, but there's also these 2 people around her immediately starting to treat her different. Lily drops to her knees and pledges long live the Queen. As Diem will let her say, Lily's, quote, sudden keenness to serve me was disconcerting. This is not something Diem is used to, and it quite frankly won't be something she's used to until really, I feel like, the end of the challenging. But then there's Teller, her brother who they've poked fun at each other their whole lives. They've climbed trees together. They've been rambunctious children together. He is now dropping to his knees to say the same thing. Part of it also, I think, is, yes, he's like, oh shit, like my sister's the queen, I gotta drop to my knees. But also I think it's because his crush just bowed to her and he wants to follow suit, which I think is so sweet.
Oh.
But Diem is not having it, and it dawns on her. If her brother is only one of the people who is starting to treat her different, what about her father, who has always served the royals, and who she and him just had a huge screaming match? Will she even be alive long enough for her and her father to make the peace and for him to treat her differently? Then there's Moira, who has always been her mentor. That dynamic is going to go completely out the window. And then, of course, there's Henri. Henri, who hates the descended. Henri, who hates royals and all the wealth they possess. Henri, who is part of the Guardians of the Everflame, specifically in charge of taking down the descended. Henri, whose proposal is still weighing between them after how many weeks?
Like, is it though? Like, doesn't it have an expiration date?
That's a good question. I feel like they do.
But again, it's only been like a day since she literally talked to her dad about it.
I know, that's true.
It's so, like, we have to remember, like, how much has happened in these 24 hours. Yes. We've spent 3 whole episodes talking about a same 24 hours. I think that's a new record for
That is
FFT.
Definitely a new record. Wow. Henri is also her closest friend. And as a result of remembering all of this, Veer immediately shoots through Diem at what is he gonna do when he finds out that she's not only, changed her career, but she's now in charge of the very people he wants to take down. And more specifically, their friendship and familiarity is over completely. We as readers might be saying, huzzah to that. But Diem is not. She loves Henri. She is loyal to Henri's friendship. We're going to ignore that kiss that Luther and her just had earlier this evening.
Well, that's the thing, though. She's loyal to his friendship because at the end of the day, she does love him in a platonic way. She's taking all this time to try to convince herself otherwise, and she's having very sexy kisses with somebody else. It's like, yeah, girl, you are friends with him. Yeah.
But also, she's never been in this lust or this love situation. So she's, again, it goes back to, I think, what I said a few episodes ago, where it's like Henri logically on paper makes the most sense. And Diem views love right now very logically. So she's like, well, this must make sense. So therefore, we must be a good match. And she's like, I'm just waiting for that at some point. But the idea of losing Henri and the comfort and safety he has brought her, at this moment, there is nothing she doesn't want to do to feel comfortable and safe. Like, this is terrifyingly out of her comfort zone. But right now, that's a problem for later, Diem. We're going to just go straight to damage control right now. So Teller's marching orders are simple. Go tell Father and Henri that Diem has left town to visit a friend. It's neither here nor there that she has no friends, but that's just me, and doesn't know when she'll be coming back from said visit. That will at least buy her some time as she finds out how to break the news to her family and Henri.
Diem can't bring herself to tell their father what is going on right now, despite Teller's insistence, because she is too distressed, too caught up in how wrong she was for not taking her flame route, too ashamed to face their father after just yelling at him that he's not her father. She regrets every terrible word she said to him with the sole purpose to hurt. She had been pushed to the edge with all the family's secrets, and now she can't face their father and inevitably have to admit she stopped taking the flame route when she promised him she could be trusted to take it. So she's mad at her father for keeping secrets when now she's like, oh yeah, I've been keeping one of my own, and we have a problem.
Yeah.
Upon closer inspection of Diem's eyes, as Lily and Teller are trying to figure out if Diem's descended, which pause, because we cannot stress enough how insane this is for Diem to even be having this conversation with her brother and the princess. Upon closer inspection, Lily realizes that Diem's eyes are gray. Important to note that Diem was born with brown eyes, and when she grew into powers with puberty, that's when her brown eyes turned gray and her auburn hair turned white. That is not normal for even the half-mortals who are descended. They are born with their blue eyes. So this is very unique, and why, another reason she's always thought she was mortal. She was born with mortal brown eyes. But this realization that Diem has gray eyes shocks Lily to her core, and she immediately says she has to go find Luther. Lily starts saying he's been, before Diem cuts her off with a resounding, "No, don't tell Luther!" Before Lily was so rudely interrupted, what do we think she was going to say? He's been waiting for someone with gray eyes is my best guess, because she goes on to say he saw, and then she gets cut off again. So we can gather that Luther must have told Lily about his vision.
I am going to be on Diem interruption watch. I love Diem. I just talked about how much I really like Diem in this book. Homegirl needs to let people finish their sentences. And this is one of them. Because yes, I agree. It's definitely something to do with the vision. I think he's been waiting for someone with gray eyes. That feels like something Lily would say.
Plus, while it's not included on the page right here, we do know that only the kindred had gray eyes. So Diem is the Lumnos queen, so there must be some blue in her eyes somewhere, right? After all, Luther has blue-gray eyes. But yeah, the fact that she has gray eyes, that is exactly what Luther's vision said, that there would be a queen with gray eyes. Speaking of Luther, we have to tell him that Diem has a crown, by the way. We know from his bonus chapter that we discussed in our final Spark episode that he already knows Diem is the new crown. But no one in this little group knows this. Lily knows she needs to tell her older brother because his vision is coming true, and she knows he has good intentions to genuinely help. Diem, on the other hand, definitely does not want to bring Luther into this little circle of people who knows that she has the crown.
For many reasons, but here are a few. Number one, so much feels out of her control right now when it comes to Luther specifically, despite her always trying to stay in control around him. Her whole life is just, here's the drinking game, turned upside down right now. She doesn't need the pull of his aura messing with her even more. And then number two, we cannot stress this enough. He was supposed to be king. As far as she knows, he was dancing up and down the castle aisles being like, I just can't wait to be king all his life. There's probably some part of her wondering if he's pissed off that he didn't get the title. Obviously, he's not, but we don't know that in Diem's POV.
Well, and she doesn't trust his reaction to not getting the crown.
Not at all. She finds out here that there's this little challenging that she might have to fight to the death with someone, and she's wondering if that person is going to be Luther. No wonder she doesn't want him finding out, because if he does, he could just waltz up to her and make his job a hell of a lot easier.
Plus, only hours ago, she threatened his life with a blade to his neck. And knowing how powerful he is and that he probably wants what she has now, that's not good.
And number 3, he just gave her a, you're no more mortal than I am, slap in the fact face. And while we know he's right, and Diem definitely does, but she's just not wanting to admit it right now.
She's a 10 on the Dulu.
She's
with
a
that.
10 on the Dulu scale there. There's a part of her that doesn't want to deal with his I told you so, or see, there's more proof. She's not ready for that logic, and Diem's too stubborn to let shit like that go by. And number 4, have I mentioned they just kissed like hours before?
And it stirred up lots of feelings that Diem is not ready to face. She's got enough other problems right now.
Face up. Things with him are confusing, for lack of a better term, and she's got enough confusing happening right now. There's no need to add this undeniable attraction to the mix.
In fact, before the crown appeared on her head, she never thought she would see Luther again. Diem's already in a panic with these heightened emotions right now. The last thing she needs is complications that come with Luther's involvement. What Diem needs right now is time. Time to get her thoughts straight. Time to figure out how to not keep the crown without a fight to the death. Time to untangle and prove this is all a massive mistake. Or rather, as much as Diem refuses to believe it, time to come to terms with the truth that she is descended. As a short-term solution for Diem's need to hide and to have some time to fix this inconceivable situation, Lily offers for her to go to a cabin on the royal hunting grounds. After all, Diem's the true owner of it now, and only royal blood willingly given can unlock it. So it's the perfect place for her to go and not be disturbed.
I love that moment where when she puts the blood on the lock and it actually does unlock for her, it's like, oh, fuck, it actually is me. Because there's going to be multiple moments over the next few episodes where something happens and it's this logical reality check that apparently telling her to her face didn't unlock within her. But there's these moments that are going to be happening, and I love that most of them have to deal with magic.
An hour later, Diem is at the quiet cabin, peeling off her soaking wet clothes thanks to the search for the flame root in the water earlier. Now in the silence, with a little bit of time to process that she has indeed been chosen as the crown, Diem considers the implications. Number 1, it means she must not be mortal, but she can't let this truth rear its ugly head. She audibly says no to herself when her mind turns to it. That is how conditioned she is here to push it down. It's only now that she realizes no mortal should have survived what she went through at the armory explosion. She doesn't have a single wound. There is no sign that she was in a collapsing, burning building, even though her clothes were burned away. But no, if she's willing to float the possibility that she's not mortal, her whole life comes crashing down. As we've talked about so much on this podcast, everything feels out of her control right now, and she needs to hold on to any sense of identity.
As much as Diem is floundering about right now in this book, I really do commend her mindset. Quote, when all else fails, keep moving. If you cannot run, then walk. If you cannot walk, then crawl. So much of who Diem is at her core can be boiled into these 3 sentences.
And I love that it's advice from Andrei, her father who helped shape her into the woman she is today. And she is always remembering his words and his advice. I also think that's really good advice for any of us. When we feel down and like things feel impossible and we are in a very challenging situation, we just have to put something of ourselves in front of the other just to keep moving, even if it's just a tiny little step. Just keep moving.
One of my favorite pieces of advice was if you can just do one teeny tiny thing for yourself in regards to wherever you're trying to go. So like, for instance, like if you're going after a goal, it's like do one teeny tiny thing for yourself for that goal each day. It's like not big, super small, but it tricks that part of your brain that feels like you're stuck, and it starts to condition it where it's like, oh no, I actually am moving forward. And it's a big confidence boost.
Well, when I was postpartum, it's hard. It's so hard. And so my one little thing every day was to brush my teeth. And I know that seems maybe silly where you're like, but aren't you supposed to brush your teeth every day? Having a newborn, that's not the first thing on your mind. And once when I would brush my teeth, then I would usually wash my face. And simply doing those two things for myself helped me so much when I was just going through it, you know?
Yeah.
With her father's advice giving her some clarity, Diem sorts through this development of becoming Queen of Lumnos. She has to keep pushing forward, and with that means she can't run from a challenge. She can't stay hidden here forever, not when she needs to understand who and what she is, and what it means to wear the crown. Before she arrived at the cabin, Diem momentarily considered what she could accomplish with the wealth that comes with the crown. She's already feeling a little torn between wanting absolutely nothing to do with this crown and the Descended, and what she can solve with the power of being queen. Back in Spark, she yearned to make a difference in big ways. That was why she joined the Guardians. And recently, she's been lost in how she can actually do good in this world without meeting violence with violence. Well, as impossible as this situation seems, she knows she has to put one foot in front of the other and see where this takes her.
But Diem is not alone in her thoughts for long, because it looks like that promise that Lily made to Diem to not tell Luther where she is or about the crown, yeah, that did not happen. Because what happens, Lexi?
Clippity-clop, clippity-clop.
Down the road on one horse, Diem rushes out to meet Lily, but no, it's Luther, his jeweled sword ready in hand. Before we get into how this looks from Diem's POV, because yeah, it does not look great, Prince. Let's go and back up a little bit into Luther's POV, my favorite place.
Cloppity, clippity, clippity,
Cloppity, clippity. Luther already knew Diem was crowned queen, as we learned from his POV last book. But he just so happened to know, after he looked at his reflection in Sarai's eyes, that the crown was not on top of his head, it was going to be on top of Diem's instead. He also got a very direct message from King Ulthur to find her gray eyes. So even without Lily spilling the beans, he would have instantly gone looking for Diem. But, like we talked about in our coverage from last book, Luther received this vision from Lumnos that he was going to serve a gray-eyed queen. So this is also years in the making. He has been so devoted to that promise that his mind did not even think twice before he was running to Diem, sword in hand, swearing his sword to her. His real sword, not his penis.
He'd swear that to her too if she didn't think she hated him so much.
Listen, I'm not saying a good hate fuck would have solved a lot of problems in this book, but I'm also not saying it. With the accumulation of all Lumnos has told him coming to pass, it makes sense that he's standing in front of Diem, completely frenzied. He practically ran here.
Clippity-clop, clippity-clop.
His sword is out.
Yeah, it is.
It's out.
Keep going, Nicole.
It's out and ready because he was just kicked out on one knee.
Oh my gosh! And she's half naked. Woo-hoo-hoo! They call this a slow burn.
Oh my god, I'm so happy. But no, he had his sword out. He was ready to get down on one knee to swear his loyalty to her. But then he sees her and she's naked. With the exception of lace wine-colored underwear and matching bra wrapped up in a blanket. And his hand is white-knuckled around the hilt of his sword.
Not in heat, it won't be. I mean, heat of the Everflame.
No, in heat. It's definitely in heat. Absolutely. Oh my god. All of this to say, this is the most long-winded way of saying he got distracted. His eyes start roaming over her body, and he starts taking a step toward Diem, completely forgetting that his sword is out in hand. But,
and ready!
And at attention! But Diem did not miss this. And from her POV, without the knowledge of the vision and the loyalty he's ready to formally swear, yeah, this looks bad.
After all, everyone presumed Luther was the heir. It seemed so obvious to everyone except Luther himself. Diem couldn't work up the nerve to ask Lily how Luther will react. I think it's because she has feelings on opposite ends of the spectrum. At least from her end, this is an enemies to lovers trope. On the other hand, she is unnerved by Luther, all his power, and what what she suspects about his involvement with her mother's disappearance. This is also mere hours after Diem's conversation with Henri at the end of Spark, where he informed her just how big of monsters these descended are. And Diem was disgusted that she had started to warm up to Luther because here Henri was reminding her just how evil the descended are. Luther is, by Diem's definition, her enemy. And now, as the new crown, she has exactly what he was raised to eventually have, what was always expected of him, what she assumes he wants. And for Henri, just fix this issue of her being the crown, and so he can become the crown himself, all he has to do is kill her. But even Diem can't overlook that Luther saved her life from the collapsing armory and kissed her passionately. Not to mention, he said some pretty sexy things to you too, Diem. Like, wow, why do we keep forgetting about that? Except all that bonding seems to have gone out the window now that she's queen. Because here Luther is holding his sword, his aura around him scorching and pulsing. Like Nicole said, you look and even your magic feels so guilty, Luther.
Luther doesn't really help his case when he starts accusing her of killing the king. I love you, Luther, but I think your shock, your anger, maybe your naked girl shock got the better of you on this one. Well,
so that does bring up a really good question. Why does he accuse her of killing the king? It's kind of like Luther flipped a switch from devoted servant to holding out his sword to, pledge his service to her to angry accusations that are very real within a few moments. Is it because Diem doesn't want the crown and says that she doesn't want anything to do with Luther or his people right as he's about to pledge himself to her? And he's it's a little bit of like a check there. Like, maybe is it because she called his sword a garnished piece of tin and he's like pissed off about that? It's like he's both relying on Lumnos with this being the great-eyed queen he'll serve, and he's like, are we sure? Because she's still lying about being immortal, and he's remembering how untrustworthy Diem was at the palace, and he definitely doesn't trust Orally not to be up to something here. So I'm getting some mixed signals here from Luther.
I think just like Diem is second-guessing his motives behind what he's doing, he's also now starting to second-guess hers. And I kind of love this about him. He is pretty unconditionally devoted to Diem. So much so on the first read, you're like, what is this guy on about? Like, why is he so 100% in her corner? And I like that there's these moments here and there of him being like, Lumnos, are we sure? Are we sure this is her? And I just think that's a little bit more realistic. He's almost wondering if he's been played the fool this entire time. Does she know what she is? Did she flirt with him just to get close to the king? That kills me. That hurts so hard because he's like, oh my God, did I just fall for this girl head over heels and I've been played the fool this entire time? Did she? And maybe that's why she's even answering the door half naked to get him, like out of his mind. Did she kill the king with her mother, who he already doesn't trust, and try to take the crown for themselves? He's not able to figure this woman out. And he's almost like, I swear to you, Mother Lumnos, if you've been playing me this whole time, and it kind of makes me sad. He just like Diem is doubting her ability to see what's clearly in front of her. He's also doubting his ability.
Okay, that makes more sense there, yeah. Luther proposes Diem come back to the palace with him because Sarai will find her no matter what, thanks to the Gryvern's bond to the crown. And it's better for Diem to arrive to the palace now on her own terms where she can take control of the situation than be revealed while hiding. And it's kind of this one big oops and the control is taken away from her. Well, shit. You make a great point, Prince Luther, especially when Diem was just reminding herself that Bellators don't back down from a challenge, and she has to push forward to figure out what in the flames to do about this crown and who she really is.
But how do we get back to the palace, though? How about we take the only horse, only one horse? I love that Luther only brings one horse, and I imagine it's for multiple reasons. He's in a hurry, and his horse already threw a shoe, so he's having to take Aemonn's horse. He doesn't want to waste time searching and saddling and, guiding a separate horse also to the cabin. But then also earlier the same night, can we say it enough? Luther and Diem kissed passionately. It was earlier this evening. I bet he didn't really think another horse was necessary when they were far closer just hours ago. So when he says that he didn't expect to need more than one horse, and Diem's like, it's because you plan to kill me? He's so annoyed at that being her first reaction that he doesn't even reply. He's like, are we just gonna totally forget that we were like practically humping with our clothes on just a few hours ago? Girl.
Poor sweet Luther boy. He's the goodest boy.
He just wants to get laid, and he's just not working for him. Among many other things. Instead, the two of them mount the large horse. Luther's hands grazing over her hips to grip the saddle horn between her open thighs.
You really were not kidding about going beat by beat through this. I was like reading the outline and I was like, oh my gosh, we're like actually getting the beat by beat.
I almost went more, but I held back.
Oh good, I'm glad this is the held back version.
But with both of them squished on this saddle, her back practically super glued to his thighs, grinding against each other like they're high schoolers at the homecoming dance in the early 2000s. But, ding, 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 we get a romantasy smell bell.
We've never done one of those before.
Which is a real shame because smell bell is such a satisfying thing to say.
One moment, please. I got a bell!
Now, listeners who are just listening and not watching this chaos ensue on YouTube, this is not just a bell in her hand. This is a whole farm play toy.
Tell me you have children without telling me
you have toddlers without telling me you have toddlers. Luther should have smelled of wealth, exotic incense, or spices that no mortal could ever afford. It sounds like he should talk to a certain papa that we know. But no, he does not smell like any of that. He also does not smell like a farm. Shocking. Instead, he smells of cedar, leather, moss, the forest, her favorite place in the world. Quote, he smelled like home. I'm so happy. Ding, 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 ding. Who's not happy, though? Diem. Diem.
Only an FMC and an enemies to lovers would not be happy in this situation.
I would be like, take me away.
Nicole and Luther would never make it to the palace.
Absolutely not. Because, like a bucket of ice cold water, guilt washes over Diem. She's practically bumping uglies with the descended man, and she's with someone else. Someone whose marriage proposal is still weighing in the air. That expiration date has not hit yet. I love that she thinks of Henri now and not during her and Luther's passionate kiss.
Obviously, she is clinging to the familiar. Like, now she hopes Henri still wants to marry her because of this whole mess. Never mind their entire argument they just had earlier this evening. She can't lose him in her life when it's fallen apart completely.
But with her mind on Henri and looking at the horse, something clicks in Diem's memory. This horse is enormous. Some might say it's as tall as a house. It has a glossy white coat with the exception of one black tuft on its head, and the saddle is decked out in jewels, silk, gold, and many pearls. As Diem says, it's impractical to the point of absurd. It's not the first time we've heard of this particular horse. Back in Spark of the Everflame, Henri shares a story about how this very same horse with a descended rider barreled over a mortal delivery boy in Lumnos City, killing him with the horse's too fast blow. But instead of attempting to help, the descended just swore at the boy for getting mud on the jeweled saddle. When Henri said the boy was dead, the descended brushes the dust off his horse and rode away like it was nothing. And as Diem realizes, if this horse belongs to Luther, then that must mean he was the descendant who killed the boy without a second glance.
However, we will later find out that this is not Luther's horse, and therefore he was not the descendant who Henri saw run down the poor boy. Aemonn was the one who swore at the dead boy for getting mud on his pretty saddle. As it turns out, Luther's horse threw a shoe earlier tonight, and he was in a rush to find Diem after the king's death and Lily's confession of her whereabouts. Since he couldn't ride off on his own horse, he took Aemonn's horse instead. But we and Diem don't know anything about this yet. We don't know that this is Aemonn's horse. All we know is that big horse equals Luther equals he's really bad. I do just want to pause though, because I just kind of mentioned it, but like, did anybody believe that it was actually Luther?
No.
I remember reading this for the first time and being like, yeah, there has to be an explanation, because this is not like the Luther we're falling for. No matter how morally gray he is, like, he would never do such a thing.
Is he morally gray? He seems morally gray, but he's so not morally gray. Like, we have other MMCs who are like morally gray. Homeboy is.
Yes, he is morally gray to the guards. While Diem will later recognize Luther as the ally he truly is, she's definitely not there yet. This realization, and I'll even say reminder, that Luther is as terrible as the Descended are made out to be, gives Diem further clarity for her mission. She's been granted a very unique opportunity with power over the Descended, and now she'll have her chance to bring them to justice. As the realm's ruler, she'll finally be able to give the mortals a fighting shot at taking back what had been stolen from them so long ago. She's kicking herself for falling for Luther's seemingly nice side and warming up to a handsome face. But nope. He killed a boy. He was fond of the late king who was responsible for atrocities against mortals. He is a symbol of the Descendants' true ways. And Diem won't lose sight of bringing down their reign, especially now that she is miraculously in a position of power.
And I also think that as part of Diem spinning out of control right now with everything that's happened in the last few hours, her mind is trying to grab onto something that she can control, and that is anger. And at someone who presumably really deserves it. And more specifically, anger towards the person who is just easiest in the vicinity to point fingers at.
So her plan is simple. Survive the challenging in 30 days, complete the rite of coronation, and destroy the Descended. Oh, if only it was that simple, Diem. But again, it does show her naiveness. In her anger right now, she is honed in on bringing down those who deserve justice, like Luther here, who killed that boy without remorse. But she'll quickly be reminded that the Descended are not all bad, and there are innocents she will want to protect within their ranks.
It's like she's desperately clinging on to anything that would be so easily black and white or just simple right now. Oh, Diem. Leaping off the horse with it barely coming to a stop, Diem sets her feet on the mosaic stone walkway of the palace and starts striding forward until she senses her and calls her forward with a whisper, Sarai. With the head of a sea dragon, wings and talons of an eagle, and the body of a lion, Sarai has finally entered the meat of our episodes. Oh my God, we've been waiting for this moment. Oh,
I got my little Sarai here.
Yes! Diem and Sarai's first formal greeting as crown and creature is rather surprising to Luther, who's used to Ulther's relationship with Sarai, which was fine, but never really close. But here, even from Sarai flying down to meet her queen, quote, the thump of her powerful wings felt synchronized to my own pounding heart.
I love that so much.
The kinship between these two is immediate. The command to Sarai feels so natural, as if it was always these two in this soul-deep bond. God, I love this! Now, I do feel like there's multiple reasons for this immediacy of the bond. Diem realizes that Sarai knew Diem would be the crown before she actually received it, which meant that's why they were always pulled towards each other within Ulther's final weeks. Feeling connected to these types of creatures is also very Diem. She's always been like a magnet to those who are in need. And while Sarai lives in the opulence of the palace, she is magically bound to serve the crown at whatever cost. And it makes Diem's heart go out to her and swear that she will free her of this burden someday. And then also, I do imagine that Sarai feels that extra sense of loyalty to Diem out of just the kindness of her heart. They're so similar.
Well, and also Sarai was originally very loyal to Lumnos. Sarai came to this new world with Lumnos, and Lumnos loved peace and mortals and really wanted all of that harmony. And so I think that Sarai innately carries those same values. And of course, those are the same values that Diem shares.
Yeah. But also, let's not forget that Diem has Phanos magic. And as she's conversing back and forth with Sarai, she feels her emotions and the intentions behind her soft whirls or purrs, even noting how she feels like Sarai can sense her own thoughts. Like, I think this is Phanos magic.
I respectfully agree to disagree because I think it's just the bond between Diem and Sarai. It does make me wonder, though, if Diem has the ability to become the next crown of any realm, I wonder why Sarai, the Lumnos Gryvern, especially feels a kinship with Diem. Like, it might be very much that Lumnos had those same core values that Diem has, and so Sarai is naturally pulled to Diem for that. Like, the lavender flames from the Montios Gryvern will also feel pulled toward its new queen after she gets that crown. And Tybalt, the Igneos Gryvern, best name for a Gryvern, by the way,
so
will
good.
help her out in his own way when they interact. But I'm curious if there's something more to this special connection between Sarai and Diem beyond her being the crown this Gryvern must serve. Like, maybe Sarai knows that Diem is the daughter of the Forgotten who will lead this world into a new era, and she's Lumnos' chosen to do that? It's honestly not unlike Luther's blind devotion to Diem based off the vision Mother Lumnos sent to him.
Okay, fair. I do think the moments where Diem can almost, like, feel what Sarai is saying, because when we talk to Phanos on Kirill later on this book, she will basically say, I can communicate with all creatures. And when Aemonn weasels his way with Diem to be mad at Luther later on this episode, Diem can almost feel Sarai saying, quote, tell me who to kill, unleash me upon them, and I'll make them pay. Like, that, I think, is definitely Phanos.
Except she's not tapped into her powers. So it depends, like, does Phanos magic kind of work differently, where because she already has this bond with Sarai, she might not recognize she is using those same powers?
Maybe.
Sarai is, in her own way, a physical embodiment of the crown's power. She will protect at all costs, and Diem certainly appreciates having this ally she can trust to be on her side. It might not have been a discreet entrance for this new queen to enter the palace, because the whole royal family, all of them, they're watching this from afar. And of course, then we also have the guards, too, who had assaulted Diem back in Spark. Now they're formally saluting her. This greeting with Sarai is a reminder that she is queen. No matter what these descended think of this unexpected crown, she has some leverage, and that's a good thing. This is a first impression that Luther was kind of banking on so that she could come willingly to the palace. It might be late evening. Like, seriously, what time is it by now? But the introductions aren't over yet.
Hold on. Is this time math? I think we're going to do... I don't have actual time numbers, so we won't do full-time math. But she woke up this morning in Luther's bed after having just had all of the, incident from the burning building last night.
Yes.
So I'm assuming she slept a little late to, sleep off the...
Like 8 or 9 a.m.
That's so sweet. You think that's a little late? Sure, we'll say 8 a.m.
Okay.
And then she went to work with the king. That's, what do you think, like 10?
Let's just say, like, from when she woke up to when she left the palace, let's say it's about an hour.
Okay, great. So that's 10 o'clock. Then she has a steamy makeout session with Luther. That's at least 3 hours. I'm just kidding. That's at least, like, what, an hour?
I lumped that in with the other hour. Okay, let's say from wake up to leaving, which includes the kiss, it's an hour and a half.
Okay. So that's 10:30.
And then
she's
she
out of
goes
there.
to the healer center, and then she and Moira sit down for hours and talk. So I think that it's like
what,
at least
4 o'clock?
I was going to say 2, but yeah, like something like that. And then she goes to Henri.
She paces outside of his house for a while. So let's say he answers, he and her start talking at last at like 4:30. Okay. Then she walks home. So it's early November, late October. So that means it does get darker earlier. This is turning into time math, and I'm so happy.
And it is dark when she is on her way home.
Yes.
So I think it's probably around like 7 o'clock when
that's kind of what I'm
back.
thinking.
Yeah.
So maybe her and Moira spend a little bit more time together, because I don't think her and Henri hung out for that long. But yeah, okay, so let's say she's walking home. It's 7 o'clock. She has the big fight with her father. Let's say she and Teller are running out of the house at 7:30. She shoots light up into the sky. She has her whole existential crisis. Let's say that's 8:30. Then she has to go to the palace. That's...
Well, no, because then it's an hour later that she's at the cabin.
So that's
so
9.
let's say that Luther gets her at 9, and then they have to go. So it's probably like 10 o'clock. Well, no, it's probably 9:30 right now.
It's between 9:30 and 10. Alas, what are you all doing awake and this nicely dressed? It is a school night.
But hey, House Corbois wants to meet this new crown who is, surprise, not one of their own, aka Luther. It's my understanding that the Corbois have reigned as the royal family for generations, like for descended generations. And suddenly they aren't royalty anymore. And there goes the highest of high Lumnos descended status. But at the same time, this unexpected crown from out of nowhere is an opportunity to align themselves with this new queen. They'll do whatever it takes to keep their highest of high status. And that begins now. But Luther knows just how judgmental his family is, how many people there are to meet, and that they will also see this as their own political opportunity to figure out who this new crown is, where she comes from, and what her strengths and, most importantly, her weaknesses are. He recognizes this as a bad first impression waiting to happen because of what Diem looks like, and she's totally unprepared in more ways than one. And have I mentioned that she's way too far out of her element?
The way I would have swooned the moment he was like, I would presume that you want to meet the whole family at once rather than, draw it out. Like, I would have been like, take me away. Yes, absolutely. But no.
Well, real quickly, though, because he has Lily go and get the whole family to go, like, meet up and all of that. And then he's like, okay, now, like, do you want to go take a bath? Do you want to sleep? So, like, how long was he expecting the family to wait for her?
She is the queen. They can wait as long as she wants. I think that's his motive.
True. But just because Diem wears the crown does not mean she's lost that stubborn streak. Oh, you think I should do this, Luther? You think I should go and freshen up and get my shit together and then meet them? Well, mwahaha, fuck you, I'm gonna do the very opposite. Let's just meet them now and rip the Band-Aid off. Because Luther doesn't think that Diem should do this right now, and she wants absolutely nothing to do with his counsel. I can understand Diem's position here. She thinks Luther killed the child Henri saw die, and she's been reminded how evil he is. He is her enemy through and through, and she is establishing that, as well as asserting her own power. No, this guy does not get to bring her to the castle and start advising her. He does not get her trust like that.
She's also experiencing what Luther practically grown up with, constantly having to ask themselves, is this a person who actually wants to help me, or do they just want me in their good graces? So is she being rash in saying, no, I don't want your help? Absolutely. Yes, of course. And she even recognizes it. But she's also alone, and she doesn't feel like she can trust anyone right now, or at least anyone's true motives. So I don't entirely blame her on saying no to his counsel. Maybe a little bit on the rashness that she does it, but yeah. I would have showered, maybe changed a little. I do love that as they're standing at the doors, Luther does give some last minute advice about not sharing anything about herself, specifically about her plans. I love the plans because that's so weighted. Her mother or her magic. It's almost like he's saying, I know you don't want my help, but tough fuck, you're getting it anyway. Here you go. Let's go in now. But it is no time like the present to meet the parents and the 40,000 other cousins. It's really only 100 very, very finely dressed Corbois descended, dripping in silk and satin with hairs of all sorts of different colors and enough jewelry to feed the entirety of a Marian. However, something stands out about the younger appearing descended. They are dressed in such scandalously little that they make the sex purveyors from Paradise Row seem modest. The descended cousins will have quite the reputation in this book, especially for trying to outdo each other when it comes to their clothing, using their garments, or lack thereof it in some cases, to be that center of attention. I love this little detail of world building. They grew up being one of the many Corbois cousins. Individuality was never given to them unless they were the highest ranks in the family or had incredibly impressive magic. So to stand out in the crowd, they use their clothing to attempt to find that moment in the spotlight, including even when meeting the queen. But something else stands out to Diem. They're all fucking tall. This reminds me of the first time I met my husband's family, because they're all like 6 plus, or even like, I'll even say like 5'10" plus, and I am not that. So whenever we have a family photo, it looks like singular raising the bar gone wrong, because it's just tall, Nicole, tall.
Well, then they also married tall people too.
Yes! Everyone's married to tall people except me. I'm the little one of the family. But Diem's always been this tall person. However, when she's among the descended, it turns out that she's quite petite. She's used her height in the mortal world for so long to gain that extra confidence in the room. And without that backing here, there's this wave of nerves that hits her. She didn't realize how much she relied on that height difference to be that confidence boost in situations where start the drinking game, she felt out of her element.
And this is the most out of her element Diem has ever been. We talked a lot throughout our Spark coverage about how much Diem relied on her confidence as a skilled healer, a fighter, and someone who is not afraid to use her voice. She had an ego in the mortal world, plain and simple. Now, she's not just the shortest person in the room, or the worst dressed, or the most mediocre by all definitions here, or generally the biggest hot mess. She is in a whole new world, with a... That was
so pretty! Yeah. Oh my God! I'm so proud proud of you.
With a different set of rules, expectations, politics, and ways of life. And she just waltzed into a room of 100 royals with nothing but stubbornness. Like, that is all that's fueling her right now, that and adrenaline. This is literal culture shock. And here she is supposed to be their new queen when she can't quite believe the truth of it herself.
Let's be real, though. Luther already felt like this whole meeting would be on quite shaky ground. His family was prepared for him to be king. They are used to power, wealth, mightiness, and all of that on full display. And like we've been saying, Diem is not showing that. Not to mention, they're used to knowing everyone in the realm. So in walks this complete stranger in muddy, baggy clothes, and they just supposed to accept it? Ever devoted to the Queen Lumnos has chosen, Luther presents her as Her Royal Majesty with her full title. Remember from last book, Luther mentioned how the use of titles helps set the tone for interaction. Here, he's showing he's not fucking around. This is not Diem. This is the Queen. But when not a soul in the room moves to bow, Luther makes the first move, thumping his fist on his chest and dropping to his knees to bow. Finally, the rest of the descended house follows. Throughout the entirety of the introductions, Luther stays right by Diem's side swoon. Although there are moments here and there where he steps aside to give orders to the guards or the servants. I'm assuming this is where he's making arrangements for her room and for her safety for her first night here. Oh, but each time he steps away, a new wave of anxiety hits Diem, and she loathes that she's equated his presence to her tether in this new world. I'm just saying, I also think she feels tethered to him for more than one reason.
I have to say, I can relate to Diem so much as she's introduced to all the royal family members over the next hour.
Yep.
My husband comes from a very large family. You're talking about, like 100 family members. He has 51 first cousins. I am not joking. And as wonderful and very much more welcoming they are than the Corbois, it was so overwhelming when I met them all at a family party. And in fact, his uncle who had married into the family, who also came from a small family, he came up to me and put his arm around me and was like, "How you doing?"
No.
And then he's like, "So you're going to be quizzed on this later, right?" And I was like, "What?" Like just a scared little 24-year-old girl who's just trying to impress the family.
Well, and especially because you and I come from like the teeniest, tiniest little family. Like there's 18 members.
We have two cousins. We have two first cousins.
Well,
His family literally did not believe me.
Literally just a few months into dating Brett, I went to his family reunion in Kentucky, and it was like the family reunion. Like I'm talking like they had to wear colored shirts to know which part of the family each was from. And it was
They would.
So it was me and Brett's younger brother, his now wife, who was also just starting to date the younger brother. We clung to each other like crazy, and we were like, "We've got this." Like we were giving each other pep talks. Megan, love you, girl. Still one of my favorite people on the planet.
So let's go through the important Corbois introductions, shall we? By the way, House Corbois will be a future Sofa's Library topic, so we will go into way more detail then. First, we have Remus, King Ulther's youngest brother, Luther and Lily's father, and regent of the realm, which that means he acts when the crown cannot, so he's been ruling in the king's stead since he's been too ill, and he will until Diem's rite of coronation. In fact, people from other houses have wondered if Remus had something to do with the king's illness, so he can get Ulther out of the way so he and his son could take over. But as Eleanor will share in chapter 6, she doesn't think Remus would be in a hurry to see Luther on the throne because Remus and his son have very different plans for Lumnos. So Remus would want his brother Ulther to stay alive as long as possible before his presumed heir, who does not need his father to rule in his place, takes the crown. So right now, Remus is getting whatever read he can on Diem. She's a complete wild card that no one, and I'll say especially Remus, expected. He had a vision from Mother Lumnos way back when that his firstborn was going to be the king. And he's like, what the heck is going on here? He's cold and cunning, quite the politician, as we will find out, who clings to the Corbois stain as the royal family. Which, by the way, I am very curious about how the Corbois are continually the most powerful house that is often chosen as the crown. Like, maybe there is something more to their lineage.
Well, I think that goes back to, for example, Eleanor's parents, right? Who it was presumed that two incredibly powerful wielders would have a very powerful offspring, and they didn't. So I'm assuming that's kind of not the norm. Eleanor is the exception rather than the rule.
Yep.
Next up is Gareth, Remus's eldest brother. So it goes Gareth, Ulthar, Remus in their line. He is also the Warden of the Shadows. Gareth is married to Freya and has 2 sons, Aemonn and Taran. And I'm gonna put this plainly. Gareth fucking sucks. His family might be made up of 4 of the most beautiful people Diem has ever seen in her life, looking like they were carved from marble and dipped in gold. But Gareth and Freya's eyes are cold and cunning, and sadly, that trait goes far beyond just Gareth's eyes. Please keep in mind that I am about to talk about parental abuse, and please only continue listening to this section of your comfort level. I'm going to go very, very high level, but if that's not something you want to listen to, skip ahead about 1 minute. It's going to be really short. According to Eleanor, and what we will later learn about Taran and Aemonn's upbringings, Gareth has issues managing his anger. When his kids were young, they would show up to school very often with lashes or burns. Eventually, Ulthar talked to his oldest brother, trying to make him stop this abuse of his children, but no one really knows if he actually did, because right around the time that Ulthar talked to him is when Taran and Aemonn's healing abilities kicked in, so no one would know. Many of these types of traits with Gareth are blatant neon signs as to why Ulthar made Remus regent over Gareth, despite him being the eldest. And that choice definitely caused a rift within the brothers, with Gareth believing that the title should have gone to him. But let's talk about Gareth's title of Warden of the Shadows. Luther is Warden of the Light and is the crown's representative in public. Warden of the Shadows handles the more private matters. Being Warden of either is almost as good as being king. So shut the fuck up, Gareth, is what I'm trying to say. Anything they say goes, so long as the crown doesn't contradict him. So basically, Gareth can say anything, and so long as Remus, right now, doesn't contradict him, it's as good as law. So I don't know, Gareth. That sounds pretty damn powerful to me. You can shut up. Let's discuss Gareth's sons, though. Starting with Aemonn, you complicated motherfucker, you. Aemonn, unlike his parents, who barely dipped their heads in reverence to Diem, fully and dramatically bows. He needs an Oscar, this guy. He has short golden hair that has been styled into a perfect swoop with not even a strand out of place. From the get-go of this meeting, we see that Aemonn has quite the ulterior motives with Diem. He picks up her hand and kisses her knuckles while purring, "Long live the queen." What a shameless flirt that Diem instantly matches. Oh, Aemonn, I can't wait to talk about you complex little snake.
Then we have Taran, Gareth's youngest son and one of our favorite characters in this story. It's nice to officially meet you, Taran. Remember how we first saw him at the armory explosion by Luther's side? Taran is massive and muscular, even for a descendant, and while his size should make him come off intimidating, he actually puts Diem at ease with his quirky half smile and his relaxed posture. I love this introductory description of him because that sums him up so wonderfully. He wears simple clothes, which is quite the contrast with the other Corbois here.
I also love that he has very plain blades with like no adornments, no jewels, hilts on their swords, and it feels so on brand for him as he's trying to disassociate himself from anything that is his family. It's also like a little FU to his father.
Yeah, well, and he also is pretty powerful, and he's like, I don't need this fancy stuff, you know? And it's just one more way for him and Diem to bond. Yes. I love their friendship so much.
Oh my God. And lastly, we have Alixe, who we have also met before at the armory explosion. Alixe is pure warrior. As Diem puts it, she's not a grunt soldier on a battlefield. Instead, with her lithe and toned body, numerous piercings and half-shaven head, she looked like the person you would send in to strike down a king in the heart of his own war camp. Pause. Do you think this is foreshadowing? Because the only kings we have left are Miros and Igneos, because I don't see her striking down the king of Miros. That doesn't really seem right.
No, I think that he will be an ally.
I agree. And if Diem does save Igneos on Kareel, which is
she will,
very highly probable,
know she will. Like I won't say like we know from Penn, but we do know, at least from where Byrne was at last year when she gave us this teaser, that Igneos and Luther will have a confrontation, which means he must live somehow, some way.
So
and
true.
I wonder how in the world he will live when the only person who can help him is also on the island.
So all of that to say, I could see Alixe killing him in the heart of his own war camp, which honestly, if Diem doesn't, I just want this fucker to die somehow.
I think Luther will have that honor.
Okay, I could see that.
Or maybe Tybalt will get his revenge somehow.
Oh,
like I know that he can't because he's like the bonded Gryvern, but You never know. One can dream.
One can dream, indeed. Unsurprisingly, half of Diem is in pure awe of Alixe, and the other half is wondering, with Diem's goals that she has now in the palace, of, taking down the Descended, that small task, if she'll have to kill Alixe before Alixe kills her. I have another question. Do you think that Alixe is going to make it out of this series? Because I have worries.
I wasn't really worried about it until now.
You're welcome.
I think she'll be safe. No, I could see her sacrificing herself to save Diem or tell her. No, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Say optimistic.
Okay, I accept the optimism.
Anyway, you know how Luther advised Diem right before this meeting that she should tell this family as little as possible about herself for her own safety? Yeah, about that. This reigning family wants to know where this Diem Bellator came from. And that, I will say, that's a fair question. She did kind of come out of nowhere, and last names carry so much weight among these Lumnos Descended. Bellator is not a name of one of the Lumnos houses, and we can't forget that titles and social status mean everything among the Descended.
And this is also just another us versus them moment. Among the mortals, Bellator is a known name, given Andrei's status in the army. But in the palace, Andrei has been who knows how many times to advise the king. They're like, Bellator who?
Well, I don't think they would ever put two and two together if they did know who he was, which most of them don't. Considering how much Luther wanted to keep Diem's life in the dark, this one, I will say, is partially on him for dropping her surname in his introduction of her to his family. Diem's not ashamed of having two mortal parents, though. She is a proud mortal and proud of her two mortal parents. While this is less than ideal, to put it very mildly, to share outright, Diem also knows the truth about her lineage and upbringing will come out soon enough. And similar to not wanting to hide at the cabin, she's like, all right, I just got to take control of the situation as much as I can. And the Corbois do not take this news very well, for the most part. Diem may think that she can get away with claiming two mortal parents. After all, she still has one foot in Dulu land, that she is mortal, and this is all one big mistake. But Luther steps in to allude to her being half mortal, because Andrei's not her real father. Luther has figured this for a while, because it's got to be the only explanation for Diem being half mortal with Orly, a mortal, as her mother. That was why he initially wondered if her father was from Fortos, because he thought he saw her using Fortos magic.
Well, I also just wonder if, Luther, he's pondering in his room. He's trying to figure out which of her parents is the step parent. And he's giving Orly 0.5 seconds of thought until he thinks about how similar and stubborn these two women are. And he's like, it must be her father then.
But half mortals are forbidden. Oh, the irony that it's Remus who's acting so put off by this and seeming nauseous when his half mortal son was supposed to be the one on the throne. Gareth and his wife, who are very anti-mortal, now hate Diem even more. They already were just barely nodding to her instead of bowing, and they were not warming up to her, and now they're like, oh my god, this is so bad. The fact that a half-mortal has ascended the throne is absurd for these Descended. This is the very last thing they could have ever fathomed. They outlawed these children so the Descended could stay firmly in control and keep mortals in their oppression. This is why the progeny laws exist as far as they are concerned.
One thing is for certain, as a half-mortal's Descended who is not a part of the 20 houses, Diem's in some serious danger. As Luther says, quote, an unhoused Descended has never successfully taken the throne, which... Pause, because that means at least one has tried, which I want that prequel. That sounds fascinating. So a proposition is laid out by one Mr. Luther Corbois. If Diem here is to claim that she is from House Corbois, with one of the hundreds of dead Corbois cousins as her birth father, then she would not only have allies in the most powerful House of Lumnos, but she is also much less likely to be challenged at the end of this 30-day period. Pause, because while Luther is suggesting this primarily for Diem's safety, the fact that Remus hops in on this as fast as all get out means that there's something in it for the houses themselves. House Corbois has been the family at the palace for centuries, having always the closest access to the throne and thus the highest amount of power in Lumnos. What do the Descended value more than anything else? Yes, power. By keeping a Corbois, even a fake one, on the throne, they keep their home. They keep their status over the other houses. They keep their titles. They keep their just generally feeling the most powerful over anyone. And also leave it to the most power hungry of them all, Remus, to not want to lose his position as regent.
So now let's look at this proposition from Diem's perspective. Her first instinct is, naturally, to stay as far away from this wretched family as possible. This royal family is the cause of the mortal oppression Diem is so fiercely against. However, she also recognizes she has to be strategic. She is out of her element, and she knows it. She doesn't know anything about the other houses and whether they may be worse, which, yes, Diem, they are. So Diem's like, maybe I should keep the devil I know closer to me. She knows she'll need some kind of support here in the world of the Descended if she wants to have a sliver of a chance to follow through with her plan of destroying them. But at the same time, she doesn't trust Luther in the slightest, and he's the one who proposed that she claim to be House Corbois. So what's in it for him? Is this a setup? Diem's just going to assume the worst because these are the Descended after all, and they need to meet their demise.
After meeting the family and having a conversation with them about her lineage, it has to... How long do you think that would take? Meeting 100 people and
it was over an hour, and then it kept going because then everybody got bored with her. It's got to be like 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's what I'm thinking. And I'm like, go to bed. Diem also is exhausting.
Can you imagine having a formal meetup with 100 of your closest family members? Not even your family members, people who are having you pretend like they're your family members now until 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, I party with my family until, or like my husband's family until like that time. But this is not the same thing.
I would be the worst version of myself at meeting these people. Luther walks her to her temporary room for the evening, with the king's body still laying in Diem's royal suite. And it just so happens that her temporary rooms are right across from Luther's in the crown's wing. There was another option of her staying in the family wing, but that can get very lively with the cousins coming and going at all hours of the evening. And of course, Luther already presumed that she would probably prefer something with more privacy. Correct, Luther. This is why I love this man. He's like, you want solitude? I'm like, yes, please.
I love how much Diem is grumbling about how well he understands her deeds. She wants to hate him so much. And it's like, damn it, stop doing everything I want before I know I want it.
Maybe this is why I love him so much, is because I think that his love language is acts of service.
I was 100%. Just gonna say, absolutely, 100%.
That's why I love him so much. On this walk to their chambers, these not at all lovebirds get some time to talk like two normal people. And we learned that while Luther grew up around, many other descended Corbois in the palace who, got to have a childhood in this opulent palace, Luther, sadly, himself did not. He was presumed to be the heir of the throne from a very, very young age. And because of that, much of his quote-unquote free time, or at least time to just be a kid, was devoted to learning the ways of the crown. We get a little bit more insight into his upbringing later from Eleanor when she mentions how, when he was growing up at school, if Luther got angry, his magic could have accidentally taken down an entire building. Oh boy. And because of, a child being so easily destructive, they pulled him out of school and gave him a tutor for all of his schooling. And this makes me so sad for little lonely Luther. But it also gives him and Diem an opportunity to bond, because Diem has similar sympathy, bringing up how her mother trained her to be a healer since she was a toddler. And as much as I swoon over Luther, and trust me, I am just getting started, it's important to highlight how similar these two are. We've talked so much about this us versus them theme, but this is a moment of just us. They're realizing that despite growing up in two incredibly different places, their lack of choice in their future, it couldn't be more similar.
Well, yeah, exactly. Both of these paths chosen from them are admirable and highly desired in their own right. The Crown of Lumnos and being a healer is a very well-respected job among the mortals. But these desirable paths were thrust upon these two when these are two individuals who value choice and independence so much. And so, of course, then they feel some guilt because they're like, I know that I should be grateful and happy that this is my path, but I would have liked to choose it myself.
We also get a rather interesting moment of Luther having quite the Tom Holland slip. As Diem asks him about her taking up the Corbois name, his response is that he's unworried about them losing their royal status or anything like that. However, if she does go with a different house, he just asks her to please, please, please not, force the children out of their home. And Diem, completely unsurprisingly, agrees with this and says that she has no problem having them stay. And in fact, there's been too much kicking people out of their homes by the Descended already. To which Luther says, quote, "Indeed, there has." It's almost like his subconscious knows that he can trust her and that they have the same goals. The irony is that this happens just moments after she admitted accidentally that he is actually helping her, something that she doesn't want to admit. She's so stubborn. We know from Luther's POV chapter that him and his uncle did not see eye to eye. And here's a peek into just one of the things that they didn't see eye to eye on. I cannot wait to talk about Luther's secret book of secrets next episode because, oh boy, that is lots of this. But this cordialness between these two can only go on for so long. Remember, just earlier, he accused her of killing the king. That threat of Luther mentioning taking her out at the challenging brings out the voice we've been missing all book. We have not had it yet. The voice within Diem that says to fight. She taunts Luther, saying that she can take him any day, LOL. After all, just remember how earlier today she held a knife to his throat. Why not shed his blood twice in one day? Oh, cocky there, Diem. But oh ho ho, you need one of your Photosian steel daggers to do that. You mean this one? Luther pulls back his jacket, revealing Breck's knife in his belt. Come and get it. And all hell breaks loose. Luther takes Diem by the wrist and yanks her off balance, pinning her arm against her back. Diem's training kicks into gear and she twists, making Luther's hold just a little too awkward an angle to maintain. And they're off! Hands and limbs go flying with these two well-trained warriors. Battles like this are basically foreplay for these two. We know Diem from... I can't believe I'm bringing this up. We know from when Diem was with Henri that, he was all like gentle to a fault, meh. And Diem craved anything but gentle. She wanted to fight. I give you fighting foreplay right here. Now I do have a question. Do you think he was provoking her and fighting her to test out the guards that he stationed at her room to see how loyal they would be to her and her safety? Because especially after, they failed that test, he lays into the guards saying that he just assaulted the queen in front of them and, quote, "You cowards just stood there and watched me do it." Maybe this is why I also find him so attractive. I'm like, oh my God.
I don't know if that was like on purpose. I think it just kind of naturally might have happened. But he was very aware of the guards not doing anything. It really is low-key one of my favorite moments of the book when he just yells at the guards the way he does for what he did. Like, I love it. And they're like, what? Like, it just also shows how he has been in power and presumed to be the heir. And now someone else is in charge. And he's establishing that.
All of these two's quick movements are brought to a screeching halt when Diem's body is pressed tightly against him and completely stuck. Oh, darn! Shoot! And of course, with these two in such close proximity, we get tension! Luther's stubble tickles the curve of Diem's shoulder and she arches into his arms. His lips graze her skin and his arms tighten around her waist. I'm sweating.
Luther agrees to tell Diem what he is at liberty to share about her mother. Not that he will tell Diem where her mother is, like she specifically asked, but what he can share. Because the man made a promise, and he keeps his promises. It's also ridiculously late at night. Have we mentioned that yet? And they need to sleep. Neither of them are in the right state of mind to have this very serious and long-awaited conversation. Good for you, Luther, recognizing the emotional spiral and that there's a better time for this conversation, even if it pisses Diem off. Girl, just wait until he basically doesn't tell you anything about your mom because you don't know enough to begin with. But that's... What, next episode? That's coming up here soon. Because the man keeps his promises.
The fight itself may be over, but Luther still wants his queen to be safe. And more importantly, to feel safe in such an unknown place with so many enemies. So later that night, he knocks on Diem's door. He's like, wait, I know it's 3 a.m., but hold on. And he gives her a sack of blades. But then all the thoughts leave his mind when she's answering the door in nothing but a towel. Yet again, Luther's brain just completely short circuits. Once he dies and his soul comes back into his body, he gives her this sack of blades, and all of them are Fortosian steel. Again, Luther's love language, acts of service.
If you thought we were done introducing new Corbois characters, guess again. Well, technically we did meet her last night in all the hecticness of meeting 100 family members, but now is when Eleanor officially enters our chat, at least the episode's chat. Hello, dear sweet Eleanor. She is one of the Corbois cousins, but she's now what some might call a main cousin. You see, Eleanor was born to two powerful descended parents who did not want children, but because of how strong their magic was, they were pressured into reproducing. In exchange, they received prestigious military positions. Pause. Do you think we are going to meet Eleanor's parents with the ongoing war in Burn at the Everflame? Because they're not here in Lumnos City. They are elsewhere doing military things.
I don't think so. I think that was just like a bit of character building.
Okay, I could definitely see that.
What do you think?
Well, Penn has said we'll spend a lot of time in Lumnos and learn more about the Corbois family.
True.
So maybe I'm indifferent to it. They were mostly absent for her childhood. Then when Eleanor grew into her power and it was evident she had weak magic, her parents ceased contact with her entirely. Oh, that's just so sad. Descended value power, and lineage is very important in these circles. Eleanor is the unfortunate product of that when two powerful people do not produce someone powerful, and she is kind of inconsequential. But while Eleanor is more of a distant and less powerful cousin, she has been accepted into Luther, Taran, and Elix's inner circle. She has a kind heart and positive energy, which is what this group, including Diem, is all about. So I really think that she gravitated toward them and they took her under their wing.
Well, and I think also Luther says later, like, people don't understand how smart Eleanor is. And I think Taran, Alixe, and Luther are three of the people who actually did see her intelligence. But with Diem completely naked, in bed, clutching a dagger, Eleanor knows one thing and one thing only. This queen needs clothes for once in this episode. On short notice, all that Eleanor was able to find were floor-length elegant gowns. Another question. Do you think that Eleanor also knew that as queen, Diem should be leaning more into this dressy formal wear of the Descended? It's not that she didn't look for pants. I just don't think she looked too hard for pants.
Maybe she refused to give Diem royal guard or uniform pants, and that's all she had readily available, like how that was the case with last night.
Yeah.
I'm sure Alixe has the hookup for good women's pants, though. So yes, I think that this is Eleanor already helping Diem establish herself as queen in the new world. She does not want her to be associated with the royal guard. She is queen. She's got to dress the part.
Yeah. And in court, these types of garments are very popular. The floor-length, elegant gowns, opulence of wealth. But to Diem, she has not worn a dress since childhood, since Diem noticed that the breeches that Teller wore were easier to play and climb trees in. So she asked for no more dresses, right? No, she threw all her dresses into the fire and begged her parents for only pants from here on out.
As a parent, can I just say that is so dramatic? And exactly something my very dramatic daughter would do.
As Diem grew older, she noticed how the pretty girls in school would have the boys' attention in their pretty dresses. But instead of conforming to the norm, Diem doubled down, her stubborn pride not letting her accept defeat and admitting that she wanted these girlish things. This so makes sense in Diem's character. But over time, it resulted in this fear of all things girlish. And that was with girlish clothing for mortals, which was all about blending in various muted shades of brown. These dresses are all about standing out. It's the unknown. She's comfortable in pants. She's worn them her whole life. But now, quote, the stunning dresses that lay before me now felt like weapons I'd never been trained to use. Ah, such good writing. However, like all things in Diem's life right now, she is forced into the unknown. But which dress to choose and her mindset about putting one on, that is in her own control. So she picks the plainest, modest dress that is, the safest of the unknowns. And I love that she describes it as a dark blue velvet sheath. It's that weapons lingo. It's making it more familiar using that weapons lingo. I love it. Diem may be changing an outfit, feeling like a total stranger when she looks at herself in the mirror, but this is the start of her beginning to feel an internal shift. Because the truth is, she may feel more vulnerable in a dress, even more so than she was stark naked answering the door a few hours ago. But as she looks upon herself in this new role, she sees this undeniable strength in the woman looking back at her. I freaking love this. Because in fantasy, we so often get, I choose to wear the man's pants, or I choose to wear da-da-da-da-da. And I love there's this equal strength in this beautiful, gorgeous gown. It's showing off the strength of that femininity as well. I freaking love it.
Me too. And especially because this is all so new to her that when she'll be talking to Teller, she'll think to herself how this really does feel like a costume, where it's like she's putting on a mask. And it really helps her center herself in this very out of control area.
Yes.
And so I do love that she is able to find that in these dresses and find that strength that she really does need right now. Yeah.
I remember even in theater when we would, get into the dress run-throughs and stuff like that, where we would be in our full costumes, everyone felt so much more clicked into their character because you're wearing these outfits. Like in rehearsals, if I was doing like, a more like timely, like Shakespearean or stuff like that, we wore like these really thick and heavy rehearsal skirts so that we felt more the part during the rehearsals. And it's just, it worked. It works really well.
So this new arrival, Eleanor, she's already off to a good start in Diem's books. Eleanor is direct and honest, which is very refreshing for Diem as she enters this world of the Descended, who all seem to have ulterior motives. Eleanor wants to be useful, and she's pitching herself in an area she really does excel in. She's never truly been given a chance, and here she is shooting her shot, which that right there is something Diem can genuinely relate to. Quote, like me, she'd been born into a box with a tight lid and hard walls, designed to keep her small and insignificant. And like me, she'd dreamed of being more, of being someone who mattered.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm going to be totally honest. When I first read this book, I thought Eleanor was evil. I thought she was going to betray.
For her to be bad.
I thought she was like working with Aemonn or something like this. Like my antenna was so high up there, especially when Eleanor mentions how she's always more sus about those who don't carry weapons in the palace versus the ones who do. Because those who don't, especially in court, use their words to cut deeper than a blade. And then Diem's like, you're not wearing any blades, my girl. And she's like, exactly. And she says it with a smile. And I was like, oh, this girl's evil. She's so evil. But now
that's what we get for deep diving and always looking for Easter
I know. But looking back now, it's like, oh, okay, she just wanted to be feared. It's like, it's showing us that her brain is so quick-witted and it's smart. She's not wanting to be underestimated in court. So we will bring up multiple moments where I was like, girl's evil throughout this deep dive, but it's always so fun looking at it in the reverse mirror. There's a moment where Eleanor basically admits that, well, if someone was going to try to kill you, it would actually be Luther. And while I, as a Luther lover, am like, Eleanor, you're not helping his case, my girl. This is one of the reasons that Diem finds herself immediately trusting Eleanor. Eleanor thinks logically. She looks at others' motivations. She's so courtly politic brain. She isn't afraid to hold back. So here she is saying, well, yeah, that would probably, make the most sense, but of course he wouldn't. With this great rapport these two have created, Diem has a brilliant beyond brilliant idea. It is so decided. Eleanor Corbois, you have been appointed as the first royal advisor to Diem's council. And from Diem's POV, Eleanor makes a lot of sense. She's cunning, she's witty, she's blunt, she's honest, she's funny. She and Diem get along really well. She's so clearly unafraid to be herself around Diem, which, given Diem's current state of being so out of her element, she needs people who bring that grounded energy around her. Eleanor also knows everyone in the palace. She introduces Diem to them, gushing over the most talented among them, and also warning her behind their backs of the ones who have looser lips.
She's proving she knows how to play the game with everyone, like praising servants within earshot. She's not acting like she is above these people. She is really coming from a place of value and education here and showing what she's worth. Yeah.
She's showing Diem around the castle, but not only the main corridors, she's highlighting the hiding places. She probably could have used this last book. She's also looking at the back stairwells, the servants' corridors. She's being the polar opposite of Luther right now, who's trickling information over to Diem as to not overwhelm her. But instead, Eleanor is laying it all out on the table. And by noon, the palace feels less like a foreign land to Diem. Oh, I'm so happy for her.
I really love that Eleanor gave Diem this small sense of familiarity. Like, first things first, being thrust somewhere new and completely unknown must be so terrifying. And Eleanor's first order of business is to show Diem around the palace so she can gain a little comfort in her new surroundings.
And it turns out this goes way beyond just meaning, a person that Diem can trust. Eleanor, without impressive magic or the ability to fight, she's always been overlooked. With her parents and realizing she doesn't have very impressive magic, she's always been not enough for others. And here she is in front of Diem without even really trying, I'll say. Diem saying, "You're enough, I see you, let me bring you into the light." And it's just so out of the ordinary for Eleanor.
But who should show up but Aemonn, who is on his own mission to warm up to this new, young, and good-looking Queen of Lumnos. After meeting House Corbois last night, Aemonn invited Diem to join him for a tour of the palace grounds today. That is, if you can escape the clutches of your royal babysitter. He's cunning, and I believe he saw how Luther was already aligning himself with the new queen, so he's ready to put a wedge between them.
Another reason I thought Eleanor was evil, I thought she and Aemonn were working together to get Diem accidentally drunk before her walk with Aemonn.
Yes!
It would make so much sense!
In hindsight, I get it and I openly acknowledge we have been unfairly hard on Eleanor, but look at this could have been an Easter egg. Come on.
I'm still not going to entirely rule it out.
Oh, okay. I have definitely ruled it out.
As their walk begins, it is plain as day that Aemonn has quite his own agenda with cozying up to the queen. At first, he puts on a front that, he just wants her to accept the position into House Corbois. But as he admits, and I give him credit for, outright admitting it, he's got even more selfish motives for this walk in mind. I love that how after he says that, he turns the corner on their walk, taking them completely out of Luther's vision. It's a nice little nod to us readers of like, don't trust this guy. Don't trust him. And that's when he hits her with the big ask to allow her to bring him to the Ascension Ball as her escort. Ah, yes! A ball, Diem dear. Typically, crowns are escorted by their consorts, but given that she's unmarried... Okay, so much here. First of all, I love that he's talking about the ball as if it's nothing. It's just the standard fare, music, dancing, blah, blah, blah. He's talking so blasé about balls. He's already positioning himself as the ball expert.
Oh, yes, Aemonn, the ball expert.
The ball expert.
Oh,
yes.
how those giant hanging balls over there.
It's making Diem feel like she knows nothing Jon Snow. But also, if she allows him to be her escort, then he'll be able to help her through the evening. It's a nice way to get her to see him as an advisor of sorts. He said, "Oh, you need help with your balls? I'm the balls expert. I can help you with that." There's also, if the realm sees them together, he'll be able to make small comments, like he does, about them being together. And, it's like it puts the presumption about him already being in her bed, as the servants will be talking about.
Well, he will be doing it both in his and Diem's best interest, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Aemonn wants to be in Diem's good graces and for her to potentially see him as a consort option. He'll say at the ball, and I really do believe him, that he wants his spouse to want him back. And here he is kind of being like, oh, great, like clean slate. He does not have a lot of powers. He actually is pretty weak, but because of the position of his family, with his father being the king's brother, he is able to use his political scheming, his cunning, his prowess there in place of his weak magic.
Also, we saw at the Corbois meeting that he knows Luther already has the upper hand with Diem. So part of getting Diem to agree to take him to the ball is so that she could do it before Luther goes with her. But also he's using the fact that Luther hasn't told you about this ball. He hasn't told you I'm the balls expert. He's not the balls expert. He's making it seem like, oh, that's
no, Taran is.
Odd. Yeah, he is. He's making it seem like, oh, it's so odd that Luther has, an advisor of yours hasn't shared this information with you. Information that, Diem really craves right now. It's just driving that wedge between them. But yeah, about the whole consort thing, because as his hands are on her chin and his gaze drops to her mouth, quote, then a different slimier emotion sliced through my thoughts. guilt. And those drunken lips start blurting out that she's with someone. I have a game. Do you think she's feeling guilty at another man looking at her lips because she's with Henri or Luther?
I was going to say the real game is how many more times can I say Diem's out of her element? As she clings to the familiar. In this moment, not necessarily because it's her comfort zone, but because attaching herself to Henri, to the mortals, makes her off limits to the descended. And she straight up panicked.
You didn't answer my question. I think she feels guilty because of Luther.
I know you think that, yes.
Also, a quick side note, Aemonn calls her Diem darling in this scene, and
that's what we call her.
Yeah, that's our nickname, bro.
Well, Aemonn wasn't quite expecting Diem to, reveal that she's been proposed to. I'm not even going to say engaged to, but she has been proposed to.
That expiration date is coming up.
Who, in her words, she's very serious with. So swooping in as Prince Charming and cozying up to the new queen in that sense might not work out the way that he expected it to. But putting on display that the king consort is a mortal? Oh, yes. Let's see how that'll go down with the houses of Lumnos. This is a move on his part. He is simultaneously making Diem aware of what this serious relationship of hers means now for the other houses and therefore the realm. Like, look at the bigger picture here. And Diem can't wrap her head around the implications of anything right now, drunk or not. She just doesn't know what she doesn't know. Being so out of the loop of politics and hierarchy and ruling and the descended. Like, she doesn't know what the bigger picture is.
No.
Like, all she can do is just focus on each little thing here.
Oh, poor girl.
And Aemonn is also warning her to give her a cold dose of reality about being attached to this mortal. Little does Aemonn know that Diem didn't even know she wasn't mortal until this crown appeared on her head.
Aemonn is very intelligent. I will give him this, because he pivots the conversation effortlessly to the real dangers of having a mortal lover. They'll die so soon in comparison to our descended lengthy lifespans, and dun dun dun, if they have children. And yeah, he's stating facts, but the goal behind his stating of the facts is make her doubt the relationship that she has with this mortal to make room for another, aka me. But what about these half-mortal and descended children? It's on Luther, as keeper of the laws, to enforce their executions. Now pause. Diem, first off, had no idea this was Luther's job or title to uphold that particular law. And actually, if she even knew that he was the keeper of the laws, she wouldn't know what that meant. So this is coming as a shock to her. And then keep in mind, she thought it was him who ran over that little boy in Lumnos City via Henri's story. I really don't blame Diem for buying into this idea that Luther is evil and murdering innocent children here. She does not know that he's working to get them free, and neither does Aemonn. That's another big thing. Luther's actually good at being discreet, unlike the Guardians. Aemonn here thinks that he's just telling her facts to drive that wedge between them. He's also very conveniently and very vividly portraying Luther as this murderer and someone she shouldn't trust. So this driving a wedge between Luther and Diem is quite the success. By telling Diem outright that he's the balls expert and that saying things like, gasp, Luther didn't tell you, he made Diem feel like Luther's already holding back information from her, making her feel like her trust in Luther and his motives are shaky. And then pitting him out to be this evil murderer that shatters this illusion that, for Diem, she thought she knew Luther. Clearly, she does not know this man if he's out murdering innocent children and not telling her things. I will give Aemonn this. It's brilliant.
It really is. 1000% he is a Slytherin at its finest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In this magic-fueled segment of the episode, let's tap into our Umbros magic and turn our full attention to important foreshadowing moments for the rest of this book and series, including speculations for Book 4, Burn. I think this might be our shortest foreshadowing for a episode 1 of a book we've ever done. We said too much already, so...
Diem mentions how she doesn't know much, boy, isn't that true? But she does know the crown is only passed through those who have Lumnos blood in their veins. Quote, until now. Honestly, technically, she's right. She doesn't have Lumnos directly flowing through her veins. She does, though, have Omnos blood. Speaking of blood, we learned that the blood locks can only be opened with royal blood willingly given. Willingly given! You hear that, Vance? That blood you stole won't work, you IDOT!
More connections between Diem, the kindred, and the old gods as she no longer knows who she's praying to. I feel like the old gods and the Everflame are going to play a bigger part with her lineage, because with Diem, it isn't one or the other. She's not, praying to the kindred or the old gods. It's both when it comes to Diem. So I'm so excited to hopefully explore that more. Diem is on a mission to pass this Lumnos crown off to someone else, like Luther, and it is apparently impossible. It can only be done through death. But I am very curious how the end of the saga is going to end, and if Luther will end up with the Lumnos crown, but on his own terms and by Diem's side. Somehow, some way.
I wonder if give him our gift involves giving him the crown. Well, we also know that after going to Montios, him and Diem are talking about what if she has a council in each of the realms where she's a ruler. Yeah. And then that way she's the deciding vote, and then they can govern themselves, which honestly is just smart. That's just so smart. I love that.
And I could see Luther being the head of the Lumnos one. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. We get 2 half-breed drops, one from Gareth and one from Aemonn, with half-breed being one of the words written on the wall at Andrei's murder site. I am going to keep track of these like nobody's business and who said it the most.
Yes. Well, and Gareth says it essentially to Diem's face. Yeah. And it's Aemonn later on who's apologizing for it and all that. And Luther's hold up, dude. You say this word all the time. So definitely keeping an eye on you, Aemonn. He's so complicated. I can't wait to get into him more as we continue this deep dive. Because I really don't know. I don't know what side he's on, but I think that's the point. He's not on a side. He really is a character who lives in the gray.
I think he has been so conditioned by his father, and so his default is to go to that side, but I feel like his heart is trying to urge him towards, I'll say the side, a different side.
Yes. He's like Zuko.
I wouldn't put him quite in the Zuko category. He's a little more morally
you're right.
I
take that back. The Zuko girls, please don't come after me. I take it back.
I love Zuko. Zuko and Katara forever. As Diem reflects on Sarai's servitude, she feels major empathy, shocking, for the creature, and wonders if Sarai ever grieves her orders. Question, do you think that Diem is going to free all the Gryverns who are currently still alive by the end?
Sorry, you don't even have to finish your sentence. Yes.
No, I agreed.
I definitely think she's going to somehow free the Gryverns. And Tibble and Sarai are going to have their happily ever after. Gosh, I hope so. During the Corbois family introductions, even the servants filling the glasses bow in recognition of their new queen. And now, I assume that they would do this no matter what, but noting that these servants are also Corbois family. They are the least powerful and unimportant, who have a choice to either serve the higher up members of the family, like the 100 royal family members here, or become unhoused, which is a big no, you don't ever want to do that in the societal structure that they have here. Diem wonders what kind of people Luther and Lily's parents must be to raise such different children. Well, first of all, she will find out that Luther is quite wonderful, and he is the one who pretty much raised Lily to be such a wonderful person, but we don't know that yet. And we will find out that Luther is not Ivana's son. His mother was a mortal, and Ivana had to pretend like he was hers, and she's always hated him. The way Diem shoots herself in the foot, starting to tell people to call her Diem instead of my queen or a title. Yes, absolutely, I understand Lily and Eleanor are fine, but she's going to run into that problem she's created for herself right here at the first impression, and she won't be taken seriously as the crown next episode.
Well, and there's even a moment where Aemonn on their walk is like, oh, Diem, Diem dear, or something like that.
Yes, and Diem darling.
Diem darling. Diem darling. And there's this moment where when I was reading it, I was like, there's no way she told him to call her Diem, right? There's no way. She did. She did at the Corbois introductions. She did say that. And I'm just like, girl, what did Luther teach you last book?
But it's she's so against him. So it's anything he tells her, she's going to do the opposite.
much to his dismay. It is time to enter the Sophos Library, where each episode, Lexi guides us through a world-building topic to help us deepen our understanding of this world and the magic within it.
Today's Sophos Library topic is the realm of Lumnos. It is finally time to dive into this beautiful realm with a whole lot of complications. Lumnos, the realm of light and shadow, is the realm directly west from the center of Amarian. So it's like the number 9 on a clock. Its crown recently switched hands from King Ulthar to Queen Diem, as we've all been talking about. Lumnos' sigil is a crescent moon inset in a shining sun, like my t-shirt right here if you can see it. It's a representation of the realm's signature light and darkness. Lumnos' terrain is known for its large, lush, leafy forests. We love a good forest in fantasy settings. All Lumnos descended have varying shades of blue eyes, and Lumnos descended have one of 2, or in rare cases, both types of magic. The ability to control light and/or the ability to control shadows. Luther explains that light can be conjured and focused down to its essence. So at its purest, light can burn through almost anything. And the shadows work in the same way, but it's the absence of everything. So it's no light, no heat, no air. But how does that make these light and shadow powers solid, like Diem was asking back in Spark? The answer is magic. Yay, we love a good magic. Let's move on to what we know about the kindred Lumnos, whose realm is named after her. Mother Lumnos was the first of her kindred siblings to fall in love with a mortal and one of the first to have a descended child with their mortal lover. Lumnos had gray eyes like the rest of the kindred, but she gifted her offspring with blue eyes at the foraging. That's why all descended from Lumnos have blue eyes. It is well believed by the Lumnos descended that Mother Lumnos can see what lies in the future, and she's been known to interact with her most devoted subjects, or at least Luther. I wouldn't necessarily put Diem in that category. A few examples include saving Luther as a child and telling him to serve the gray-eyed queen and fulfill her dream of peace. That is the biggest example that we do see. Sending the visions of the battlefield to Luther and Diem, talking to Diem through Ulthar, sending Remus a vision of his firstborn with a mortal. When it comes to the mortals, Lumnos loved them and never wanted them forced into submission. You hear that, descended? She even commanded her descended to guard the mortals from harm, not be the cause of it. So that is really why Lily is saying maybe Mother Lumnos thinks that it is time for a mortal to reign here. And Luther is really believing that as well, for that dream of peace and harmony between the mortals and the descended can finally happen under Diem's reign. Moving on to the areas in Lumnos that we know of, like Lumnos City. Lumnos City is the wealthy capital of the realm, and it is home to the elite ruling class, aka the descended. Even the most modest homes in the city are grandiose, sprawling estates adorned with columns and terraces and glittering chandeliers. Technically, mortals could live in Lumnos City, but none of them could ever possibly afford even the cheapest real estate here. Those who live in Lumnos City are never short on food, and oftentimes have more food than they know what to do with, unlike their mortal counterparts who are struggling to put food on the table just down the road. While it's the descended who live in Lumnos City, some mortals do work for the descended as healers, delivery men, gardeners, etc. Most descended of Lumnos flaunt their beauty and wealth at every opportunity. Fashionable attire seems like outfits from a traveling circus, or they're wearing less clothes than the workers on Paradise Row. They use their magic so casually and effortlessly with their fashion, like for instance making shadows seem like living tattoos. They have crazy hair colors and styles. Think the capital of Panem from Hunger Games, but with light and shadow magic. Everyone's always trying to outdo each other because they're all so beautiful. They all have that perfect beauty to them, so they really have to distinguish themselves as individuals with their fashion choices. The palace itself seems to be made of light and shadow. It is magnificent and terrifying, all rolled up into one. Which brings us to Lumnos' societal structure. At the very top is the king or queen and their consort if they have one. Then we have the crown's high ranks and council, which I believe is officially made up of the crown's advisors, high general, warden of light, warden of shadows, all those titles. There's the royal family who lives at the palace. That's the house of the crown, which seems to have been the Corbois for generations, from the way Luther said the past 5 Corbois crowns haven't been contested in the challenging. Next are the 20 houses, and their status is broken up into 2 groups. First are the 5 most powerful houses in the realm. Currently, these are House Corbois, Bennett, Hanover, Tenier, and Amrat. If these 5 make a decision, the other houses will follow. And then there's the 15 other powerful houses that make up the 20 houses of Lumnos. After the 20 houses are the lesser houses. This is everyone else with a house that's not in one of the 20 houses. Basically the middle class of the Lumnos descended. And all the way at the bottom, but still above the mortals, are the unhoused descended. These are the descended that live on the outskirts of the realm and are seen as inconsequential, unimportant, dirt on boots to those in the 20 houses. Then, of course, we have Mortal City. Mortal City is just a short walk from Lumnos City, and from my understanding, is home to all of the mortals in the realm. Unlike the scent of freshly baked bread or fragrant flowers that you'll find in Lumnos City, Mortal City is known to have many foul, pungent odors. And while Lumnos City is dazzling in color, mortals lean into muted tones. Girls are supposed to convey that they're practical and selfless, the makings for an ideal wife and mother, and don't wear much color because that will be seen as jeopardizing their virtue. On that note, Mortal City is quite traditional, with men being the breadwinners and women staying home to care for the family. The Royal Guard often patrol Mortal City, but they don't help much with the actual safety of the city. Most, if not all, of the city is known to be a harsh place to live. Many people die from starvation or preventable diseases, but the disconnect between the mortals and descended have made it impossible for the mortals to get the help that they need to thrive. Many also work unsavory jobs they otherwise wouldn't work as a means to afford anything for their families. Even with all that, Mortal City is where the healer center is located, meaning anytime a descended needs a healer, they have to either go to Mortal City or send for a healer to go to Lumnos City. Usually it's the elderly or the very young who need mortal healers. The other descended will go to Fortos for the healing magic. And that, friends, is our Sophos Library segment on the realm of Lumnos.
Let us close out this episode with skipping around the apple orchard and discussing our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters. It brings me so much joy that Diem was wearing nothing but wine-colored lace undergarments and a blanket when she answered the door for Luther. I just see his face so clearly going utterly blank. And also, this is a great reminder of the us versus them topic that we've been discussing so much throughout this deep dive. Diem was dressed by Eleanor when she was unconscious in underwear that had velvet ribbon and sapphire and pearls around the bra clasps, and Diem practically scoffs at it, realizing that she's about to step into a world where the underwear is more expensive than anything she ever owned in her entire life.
I'm not gonna lie, that underwear sounds really uncomfortable.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, can you imagine like sapphire gems like, pinching you right here?
Give me a sports bra from Costco any day.
Yes. The saga continues of Diem dunking on Luther's jeweled sword. Quote, "If you won't give me a weapon, then kill me with magic. I refuse to die by that. It's too embarrassing." Iconic. I love her just demasculating him with this. And then, of course, my favorite personal nickname, quote, "that garish piece of tin." Then later, when she insults it again, he gets all defensive about how it's seen many battlefields. God, I love this man.
Just all of their banter makes me squeal. And how she's like, "You're the last man I'd ever flirt with." And the spark in his eyes is like, "Liar, liar, liar." Oh, this is the slow burn I live for with Glow.
Yes.
In the early chapters, Diem hates having the crown, but still takes to authority and uses it to her advantage as she can. First with Lily and cornering her into commanding her not to tell her brother about this, which she does not obey. And then with Luther about the one horse and he should walk, which makes Luther be like, "You've taken to authority quickly for someone who swears she doesn't want it."
It goes back to that reluctant leader trope and how Diem doesn't really quite fit into it because she's reluctant because it's out of her comfort zone, but she's not reluctant in the way that we're used to with an FMC. And that's kind of why I like her when she steps into power. It's like she doesn't really have that like, "oh, I don't want to be in power," like self-doubt a little bit. When it's refreshing. I love that. When Aemonn kisses Diem's knuckles the first time they meet, Luther and Taran share an annoyed glance. Any moment of their bromance on the page is just sheer perfection. I just imagine the look between them being like, "can you fucking believe this asshat?" Like, oh my God.
I adore Alixe for 1,000,001 reasons, but a major one is because when almost everyone in House Corbois don't know who Andrei Bellator is, despite him being regularly at the palace for King Ulthar, Remus, do better. But that also just goes to show how much of a secret it was that Andrei was advising the king.
Oh, see,
and how he was like...
I took that as how much they didn't give a flying fuck that Immortal was in the palace.
I could see that too. I guess I just assumed that like King Ulthar was having immortal advice and behind his brothers' backs.
Oh!
Yeah. Because he was better than his brothers, and he was just a weak king after his mate died, and he kind of gave up, and so that's when his brothers came in and kind of became like little puppeteers.
Okay.
But anyway, Alixe not only recognized the name Bellator, but also didn't hold back her idolization of him and his status in the army. That is how you get into the new queen's good graces. Be familiar with the most celebrated military leader among the mortals.
I love that Lily just openly admits to sneaking in and out of the palace. Like, teenagers will be teenagers. They will always sneak out.
And just Lily in general, when she's like, oh no, the first test of my loyalty and I failed. But hey, her heart was in it, and that's what matters most, especially to Diem.
Exactly. I wonder if sneaking out of the palace was easier than sneaking out of our house, because I think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't sneaking out of the house.
It was sneaking back in.
It was sneaking back in, because Mom was always awake. Not because I was up, but just like she just was awake in the middle of the night.
Yeah, there was one time that I walked in, and it was 3 a.m, and she goes, what are you doing? And I told her, yeah, I was just down at the park with my friend, very innocently. And she goes, oh, okay, like, good night. And I was like, yes.
Usually I was at the park, but I was with boys at the park.
Yeah, I was also with a boy at the park, but she didn't know that. Oh God, Mom, please don't listen to this episode.
I don't know.
It's okay. I'm a 30-year-old woman. I can own up to it. Just adding to the Luther and Diem banter conversation, when she threatens Luther that he has to keep his word about her mother, and if he doesn't, then he's Gryvern food, Luther says, quote, at least that would be a fair fight. Fuck, I love him. Oh my God. Simultaneously, every single moment of Luther anticipating what Diem needs. From the meeting, from knowing she would rather meet them all at once, to having a room not in the crowded wing, to the daggers, and when she even gets into her room, there's a full tub ready for a bath. Oh my God, I bet you anything he was in charge of drawing that bath up for her. Not like that he did it himself, but like as he was talking to the other servants, he's like, can you also like make sure to like draw her up a bath? She looks tired. she could use a nice soak. She's also dirty as fuck. She's covered in mud.
When Diem gets a moment in her room to look at her reflection, she thinks, had I really just walked into a room of sophisticated nobles looking like this and declared myself their ruler, and they just accepted it?
I love this!
I do too. And it does go to show how much power the crown has and how desperate House Corbois is to keep their status.
I have been saving this moment. Luther staring at Diem in a dress for the first time. Despite seeing her almost naked, quote, a mortifying number of times, she feels more vulnerable in a dress in front of him. And he stops breathing and just gazes up and down her body. Oh my God! The tension!
All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for listening to our first episode of Glow of the Everflame Deep Dive.
Next Monday, we are continuing with Glow of the Everflame with episode 2. This might be one of my favorite stretch of chapters. We get her running into Henri. We get the Ileana meeting. We get the Luther showing the Book of Secrets. I can't wait. I'm so
Do we
excited.
get the foot massage, though?
No. That's
okay.
my favorite episode, but that's a few away. This is just my favorite of the beginnings episode.
Oh, I see.
I'm going to have a lot of favorites this deep dive.
I love it. All right, friends. Well, we would also love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest Crowns Council members.
Thank you so much for joining Melly S, Heather, Gina Rose, and Courtney MV. Welcome. We appreciate you all so much. We hope you get the best foot massage ever today. Sensually.
And if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and to be showered with all the love and attention too, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our Sofo scholar, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and our executive producer, aka our sanity manager, Hayden.
We are very active on social media with weekly trivia for each of our episodes, Amarian guides, and lots more. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram and /or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to watch on YouTube, Nicole and I are pretty much wearing a very similar outfit today by complete accident. Please hit that subscribe button and keep following along.
And while you're hitting buttons, go ahead and rate and review the pod. It takes 0.2 seconds to hit that 5-star button, to write a little love note in the review section. And it is so, so, so helpful for not only this show, but for any podcast that you listen to. It's like giving your favorite podcaster a big hug. And last but not least, do not forget to share this episode with your fellow Everflame friends. If you all also stopped breathing when only one horse came up on the page, then this is a great episode to share with your fellow friends who love the one horse trope. We all love it, is the TLDR. No one hates a one horse trope.
I love horses, so I love it. All
I
right,
love
friends.
pro-horse proximity. That's why I love it.
All right, we will see you next week. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Based off the vision Mother Lumnos sent to him.
So I hear you. And I had a thought and it just left my head. Never mind.
Okay. I don't know if I want to say that anymore. I don't know how much I trust Aemonn. Even just deep diving him in one episode, I'm starting to have some
half
feelings
of one
feelings.
episode.